I call the 2,453rd meeting of the Milwaukie City Council to order. This meeting is being held in person at City Hall and by video conference. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall or joining the Zoom webinar. The meeting is being broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and on Comcast Cable Channel 30 within city limits. There will be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address council, you may come to City Hall or participate via Zoom. If you are interested in speaking, please let staff know by filling out a yellow comment card for those at City Hall or emailing ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov for those on Zoom. When it is time to take comments, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. Comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. We ask that all Zoom participants who intend to speak label their Zoom username to show their first and last names for the record. Translation services are also available in multiple languages. Please see the information on the slide for details. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The City of Milwaukie respectfully acknowledges that our community is located on the ancestral homeland of the Clackamas people. In 1855, the surviving members of the Clackamas signed the Willamette Valley Treaty, also known as the Kalapuya Etc. Treaty, with the federal government in good faith. We offer our respect and gratitude to the indigenous people of this land. And our announcements, which are only one slide this week. Usually we have more, but I guess we're having a little summer. We have a lot of events in the summer, but the Milwaukie Arts Committee hosts another year of Porch Fest, and it began last Friday with a bang all over town, and there are 2 more Fridays to enjoy the music. Walk, bike, or roll around the city this Friday, July 24th, and next Friday, July 31st, to enjoy the sights and sounds. And you can find the schedule at milwaukeeporchfest.com. Join a community-led festive gathering to celebrate LGBTQIA+ Pride Month this Saturday, July 25th, from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at Scott Park. The event includes live entertainment, food, games, and more. Is 10 o'clock the appointed time for the unveiling of the...
Let me confirm that, Mayor.
Okay, because I saw something that said just ahead of 10:30, but then I saw something else that said 10 o'clock, so I didn't know.
I will confirm and I will let you know.
Okay, great. So we are that morning at some point in time unveiling our new Pride flag. So we had a Pride flag that was on the Kronberg path and got pretty damaged over the last couple of years. And so that's been removed. And now we're putting it in a more visible location here next to the library. So that it's in place, I understand, and will have a dedication on Saturday morning as well. Join a special author talk with young adult novelist Aiden Thomas in celebration of Milwaukie Pride this Saturday from 3 to 4:15 p.m. at the Ledding Library. Aiden is a New York Times bestselling author who has written multiple young adult bestsellers, including Cemetery Boys, Lost in the Neverwoods, and The Sunbearer Trials. Join City Manager Emma Sager for her next City Manager's Open Door session on Friday, August 14th. This is a rescheduled session as Emma had to cancel her July session. For more information about each of these events and others, please visit the city's homepage at milwaukieoregon.gov or call 503-786-7555. There's one event before we don't meet again till August 4th, and there's one big event before August 4th, which is August 1st, and the Little Float. And so I definitely encourage people to go online. I think it's little-float.com, but the Little Float had its first year last year. It's organized by the Downtown Alliance of Milwaukie with a lot of partners and sponsors. I think there's going to be more live music this year. So you can go down and get on a boat that takes you over to Elk Rock Island and you float back. You can also just come down and hang out for the music and the scene. But it does require purchasing tickets if you want to do the floating part. So go online and look up Little Float and come down. It's really was fun last year, and I'm sure it'll be even bigger this year.
Mayor, just want to let you know the unveiling is at 10 a.m.
It is at 10 a.m. Okay, so 10 a.m. Saturday, unveiling of the pride flag. And Scott, our recorder, Scott Stoffer, wanted to give an update about election season.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Beatty. It is 2026, which is an election year, and we have 3 positions on the Milwaukie City Council that will be featured on the ballot this November. And our filing window for city positions starts next Monday, July 27th. So I just want to highlight that to anyone listening. You can find all the information at milwaukeeoregon.gov/elections. The first step in running for city council is to meet with the city elections officer, and that's me, to go over the paperwork and to certify that you're eligible to run, and then we go from there. There are a few new rules in place this year, this election cycle. The first being that there is a different deadline for incumbents versus new candidates. Incumbents have to have filed and submitted their paperwork and be certified by August 18th. All new candidates have until August 25th. And there'll be more up-to-date information posted on the city's website, that milwaukeeoregon.gov/elections webpage. You are now required to post SEL 101 forms. That's the initial filing form that all candidates file. So if you want an up-to-date update on where candidate filings are, you can go to milwaukeeoregon.gov/elections. And I already have a couple of appointments scheduled for Monday, so I know there's some eager candidates out there, and with 3 positions, I do expect a fairly busy candidate filing season. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, email ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov, or come by City Hall and find me, or Deputy Recorder Nicole Madigan. But happy election season, everybody.
Thank you. And we have a haiku. And I don't remember who wrote this one. Do you, Scott? No? Okay. Usually we put the name on there, which may mean that someone generated it with help. But it's kind of, anyway, bright flags, gentle breeze, laughter weaving through the trees, a day chasing joy. I think that was intended to accompany the pride. We had a pride haiku when we did our pride proclamation a few meetings back, but I think this one was also intended to accompany the pride event. So, all right. So, special reports, Metro Future 50 Vision Committee. I invite forward Metro Councilor Christine Lewis, Vision Committee member Gabby Blogg, and Metro staffer Jessica Zeb. Thank you for joining us. And while they're getting set up, I will just say for the record that Metro held its council meeting today in Concord, at the Concord Community Center in Oak Grove, to announce a whole panoply of parks and green spaces grants, ranging from like $50,000 grants to $3 million grants. So a lot of great stuff being done with Metro's levy and bond funds. And we were very lucky recipients of a few $1 million of that ourselves. So thank you to Metro. And thank you to our staff who did a lot of work to convince the Metro teams that, because Metro has a process where they have, experts reviewing, or a committee reviewing the applications. So thanks to our staff who put together the winning applications as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilor Lewis and team.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor, and what an honor to be here. My name is Christine Lewis. I serve on Metro Council and represent Milwaukie, as well as several other cities who did not get as much money as y'all did today. The exact number that you were looking for, Mayor, was $5,953,348 coming to the city of Milwaukie for parks. And I want to start by thanking you and your staff for their leadership on Parks and Nature work, but also very much the folks who live in Milwaukie, because many of those grants were from a community-generated investment through a competitive grant process that we tried out for the second time, where it was participatory budgeting and folks actually came up with the projects. We iterated them before a final vote of over 3,500 people who live in Milwaukie, unincorporated Clackamas, Gladstone, and Oregon City. So y'all did a great job of voter turnout, I'll put it that way as well. So cheers to that. And that's the kind of innovation that I think Metro can be proud of. And it's from years of work working directly with the residents of our communities, but also with our cities and our counties. So I do not underestimate the amount of work that we have ahead of us, and that's one of the things that we're here to present on. Metro is long range in our vision, not just because of the orientation of our council, but because of our charter and how we are built. So we're here today as part of our future vision process, which is imagining the future 50. We are required to think forward 50 years. That's a long time outside of any funding cycle. That's a long time out of even any land use decision. We are working here today as part of an 18-month process to look forward, grounded in where we are today, but to be futurists, to be future thinkers, to be visionaries of how we want the region to work. And as we think about the greater Portland region, this plan should fit everybody's needs. It should not just be how Metro as an agency works. We're hoping that we are in communication with our jurisdictions so that the plan can work for them as well. Together, we want to envision the extraordinary, and we want to prepare for all that is ahead, good and bad. The future vision is required in our voter-approved charter. So this is an exercise that the voters asked us to do. And direct quote is that this is a long-term visionary outlook for at least a 50-year period, which is why we're saying 2077 is our goal year. And it's not a regulatory document, but it is intended to guide policy in our program and our funding decisions at Metro, and hopefully find alignment with other jurisdictions. And with that, I think I pass it off to staff, or do I have one more?
No, that sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks, Councilor Lewis. For the record, my name is Jessica Zadeb. I'm a principal regional planner at Metro, and I get the honor of being the project manager for this project. So we are updating this vision now for a number of reasons that Councilor Lewis alluded to. As she said, this is required in our charter, but it's not just, we don't just view this as a requirement. In that voter-approved charter, we're really viewing it as an opportunity to create or recreate this shared sense of who we are as a region and an impetus to move forward together. When we scoped this project with Metro Council last year, they gave really clear direction that they don't just want a vision, a document. They really want this process to result in galvanized partners around the region who want to take steps toward that 50-year future. And those are partners in government, those are partners in the business community, philanthropic, nonprofits, education, kind of all of the pieces and parts of who make up this region together. We are also really hoping to spur those conversations that need to happen at a regional scale. That's what Metro does. This is a vision that will speak to systems level thinking and those kinds of things that cross borders, cross jurisdictional borders in this region. And lastly, our existing vision is from 1995. We are technically 15 years overdue for an update according to our charter. We won't do that again. But it's interesting to look back at that 1995 vision and see how dated some pieces of it feel and how evergreen others do. So it's an update. It's sort of an overhaul, it's sort of an update. As I mentioned, the existing vision is from 1995. Often when people in the region, especially those in government and those in planning, think of a vision that Metro has for the region, they think of the map, the 2040 growth concept, which was adopted around the same time as the future vision. Our charter indicates that we need to link future vision and the framework plan together, saying the framework plan, which is where our policies live, it's where the growth concept lives, is supposed to describe its relationship to the future vision. And so that did exist in the first iteration of the framework plan, and it really is the way in which the growth concept is the way in which we know that some of the future vision values and aspiration statements did actually get implemented in this region. So I started to describe this a little bit. People have asked about the impact of the future vision, and it really, to our knowledge, has been that connection to the growth concept. It's that on the ground change that has happened throughout this region in development and preservation of green space. And we intend that that's going to be the impact of this vision update as well. Subsequent to the updated vision being adopted by Metro Council, we'll develop an implementation plan. I work in the planning department at Metro, and we know that we are going to be updating the growth concept as one of our actions. Other departments at Metro will be taking other actions to ensure that they are in line with an updated vision. But as I mentioned, really the hope is that this is something that other partners around the region are also bought into and can see connections between what they're already doing and what they want to do in the future and this vision. We know that some of the outcomes of the growth concept have happened right here in Milwaukie. We've got things that started to be those first pieces of on-the-ground development in the town center, some of it funded through Metro's TOD funding, then obviously the opening of the Orange Line, and much more recent, redevelopment in downtown, adaptive reuse of City Hall. We also know that this doesn't just happen as a result of a pink blob on a map. It happens as a result of real commitment by elected leaders, real commitment by staff to finding creative solutions to how to make that happen on the ground. We really appreciated having staff from the city present last week at MTAC about all of the work and changes that have happened within the town center, showing other jurisdictions in the region what it looks like to implement that pink blob into real change on the ground. So this work is guided by a Future Vision Commission that Councilor Blogg sits on, and Councilor Lewis is now also a liaison to. This is required in Metro's charter as a special body that's appointed by Metro Council solely for the purpose of developing and recommending this vision. We took applications at guidance of Metro Council, had a little over 100 applicants, and resulted in a really interesting group of 23 humans who have a diverse lived experience, professional backgrounds, identities from around the region. They don't represent every single last one of those characteristics, and they can't, but they bring those experiences to this conversation. They're also ambassadors to those communities, helping us reach folks, bring those ideas and identities into the process. Their job at the end of the day, though, is not just to bring in their own experience, it's really to listen to what it is we hear from community and help us interpret that through their professional and lived experience into a vision recommended to council. This group meets monthly. You are more than welcome to tune in. It's the second Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. We have been moving these meetings around the region so that folks get a feel for the flavor of different parts of all three counties. We're doing that in alternating months with meeting at the Metro Regional Center. You can see on this slide that we had the opportunity to meet at Center Court and the Moda Center in March, which was quite a unique experience to be in that space with very few people. And in coming months, I know that we'll be meeting at the new East County Library and at Muslim Educational Trust and the Research Center for the Arts. We met at Clackamas County's campus in Oregon City at a prior meeting, and really just trying to show off different aspects of who we are as a region and different places. Another super important body to this work is the Future Vision Youth Committee. And this is certainly not the first time that Metro has convened a youth committee for a project, but this 50-year time horizon really compels us to think about this as a youth-driven project because they are the folks who are more likely to be around in that 50-year time horizon. These young people, ages 15 to 24, are going to be deeply involved in the creation of the vision. I think the commission has really appreciated having them come speak a couple times already with that group, dovetailing their work. They are guiding our work in engaging youth as well. Our team is not comprised of young people on the project side, and so we are taking their guidance as to how to most effectively reach to this group, in particular with Future Fest, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And we really want to make sure that we are creating our engagement process to foreground youth comments and get them very much into the public eye. And actually, often what we are doing is having their events and commentary happen first on something and then feeding that to the Future Vision Commission so that they have that as they're considering an item. This is a picture of where we are in the project, where we've been, where we're going. You can see we're about halfway through. We did a big round of community engagement this spring that I'll talk about a little later to work on developing regional values. We are in the middle of some tabling out at community events, which I'll talk about. And then on this slide, I'm looking at my notes for what I wanted to highlight. Call out the Vision Summit, which is happening in October, and that will convene regional cross-sector leaders to start drafting really the core of the vision. And those are aspirations that are going to be refined through a set of conversations that we're calling vision tables, and those will happen in a bunch of different settings throughout the region. At the same time as we're hearing from community in all different forums, we also have our consultant team diving in and doing research on what we're calling drivers of change, the really big forces that are going to be shaping this region over the next 50 years. We can't have them investigate every last thing, but we've gotten guidance from the commission, from Metro Council about what's really important to this region and which just feels absolutely pressing to be looking into. This is a part of our scope that is really important and is actually kind of harkens back to the 1995 process where they had a bunch of research papers developed as well. That information will be fed back out to the public in a couple different ways. We've been having expert panels, which we have recordings of on our website. We'll have another one, and then we'll be having some like more digestible report out of that information that's not a 25-page memo. A little bit about our community engagement approach. These are the principles that we're really using to create how we communicate with the community, how we hear from community and ask them to develop this vision with us. As I talked about earlier, really centered on relationship building so that we're creating a group of folks who actually want to implement this together and see it happen. It's got to be a community-driven vision as well. This is not by Metro for Metro. This is Metro running a process on behalf of the region and reflecting back what folks want to see. We're reaching beyond traditional engagement in a couple ways. I described a little bit of the youth approach. Another way we're doing that is with arts and culture. We've had a couple moments of that within the process so far, and we're super excited to be having a pot of grant money that is going to be going to artists specifically for work associated with this project. That'll be happening later this year and into next. And lastly, we know that we are not the first people to be visioning in this region. We've taken the time to look at other communities, whether cities and counties, other organizations and institutions, visions and long-range plans around the region. And that work is definitely feeding into what ends up in this vision. I mentioned that spring engagement. Really, we're worked on getting most of our engagement through an online survey that reached out to about 2,200 residents in the region. We presented at a lot of community organization events, did this multilingual engagement. We had a couple other methods, a conversation kit and a postcard to dive in a little bit deeper. And you know, this is an input to our process in developing those values. These are just a couple images from that values engagement, highlighting two on the bottom there that speak to the arts piece of our engagement. In the middle, you'll see we actually did an artist residency at Metro Regional Center in March, where we had a couple artists come together who'd never worked together before, and develop a piece of work over about 2.5 days, and then present that to Metro staff, other artists, invited guests, and Metro Council. And I think it was really impactful for folks who were in the room to see how deeply emotion is really embedded in that artist interpretation of thinking about the future. And just reminded us that everybody comes to this work with a lot of background and a lot of emotion. We also had an event capping off our engagement on Juneteenth. That was a poetry event hosted by the People's Poets. On the theme of foregrounding youth voice, I wanted to share a slide that covers what we heard from the applicants to the youth committee in their applications to that group. These are concerns that are really, they've been continuing to talk about in their meetings, and I wanted to make sure to have them here on a slide so you all could see them. These are things that, you know, maybe are not new to you all hearing from young people in Milwaukee, but we want to make sure that we acknowledge that their concerns and interests might be different from the rest of the population, and so wanted to foreground those here too. So when we looked at that engagement this spring, a couple of themes really came forward. These are those big picture takeaways. You know, the top line is that people in our region, no surprise, enjoy natural beauty and community identity and want to see our region become safe, affordable, and welcoming by that 2077 date. These are really the types of fundamental values that we're looking to identify. People want to be sure as well that physical growth doesn't compromise community bonds, the natural environment, or a sustainable future. And there's really a shared belief that resolving homelessness and housing instability is essential to realizing these other things. These are not mind-blowing or mind-breaking findings, but I think it does just reinforce those foundational values that we want to be starting from for developing the vision. So right now, we're working on developing those draft values. These are all of the inputs to the values. We presented a set of draft ones at the commission meeting 2 weeks ago. They gave us feedback. We're doing an iteration. We're presenting a different version to Metro Council this week. So they are continuing to be developed, and we'll go through a bunch of iterations before they actually land and are used as the foundation of the vision. I didn't bring them today because they are so in flux that it didn't necessarily feel like it made sense to have you all dive into them, but you are more than welcome to tune into Metro Council and listen to the discussion on Thursday this week. Just briefly, this is how the values fit into the bigger picture. We are building that foundation of shared regional values, which will translate into guiding principles or ways in which we make decisions. The drivers of change research will consider that as we develop aspirations based on those really sort of emotional and heart-based values and guiding principles, and use the research to inform the aspirations. Last two things I wanted to highlight. We have an engagement schedule where we are asking folks particular questions that doesn't align super well with being out at festivals. We had a spring engagement. We're going to have one in the middle of winter, and not a lot happening outdoors at those times, but we still want to be taking advantage of community festivals and events this summer to remind people that we're doing this work and continue to have conversations with them about this 50-year thinking. So here's the list of places we know we're going to be. We are working on potentially coming to Milwaukie. Emailed some staff about that today. So keep an eye out. We might be here at the farmer's market at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I definitely recommend the farmer's market as the place to do this kind of engagement. You'll get Milwaukie, but also the broader region. I just made that point to Ted Leibold and your team working on the RTF, actually.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And Jessica, I got your note today about not hearing back from them, so we'll see what we can do to help on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we would love to be here. And then last slide for me, these are the upcoming events that I just want to highlight. So Future Fest, I mentioned, is our youth summit. It is a day-long event, free, there's food. If folks come, they can get community service hours. We will give them a letter. That question has been asked multiple times. Yes, it's an attractant. Our staff have been working with the youth committee. The youth committee is also being done in partnership with Next Up and Blueprint Foundation, two community-based organizations. And so that group has been reaching out to youth councils all around the region. So I know that we've reached out to Milwaukee's. I hear there's also an excellent group of students who win Student of the Month from you all. And so if we could get connected to them too, that would be great. We're also reaching out to service organizations that work with young people, all different kinds of nonprofits. But if you have other ideas about how to reach young folks in Milwaukee, we'd love to hear them.
They all hang out at Counselor Stavengeorge's store. Not all, but a significant portion.
We have flyers. We'd like some flyers. Excellent.
And I'll put you in touch with our teen librarian too, who is definitely in the know with the youth.
That would be great.
Way more than I am by saying those words, in the know with the youth.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I personally dropped off flyers for that first round of engagement at a couple places in the city, and getting your advice on where those can go, should go, especially for reaching young people, would be great. So that's coming up this summer. As I mentioned, precedes the Vision Summit, which is the adult summit. And we will be feeding the outcomes from that youth summit into the Vision Summit. And then on the note of electeds from around the region, we'll be having a workshop with MPAC and JPAC members and alternates in late October, where that group will be diving into revising those aspiration statements, and the outcomes of that will get fed to the commission for their consideration and drafting of the vision. So that's all I have. And I really wanted to, welcome comments from Councilor Blogg about her experience so far on the commission and just sort of why she's excited about this and what value she can bring.
Well, thank you. I have to say, it's been quite interesting. I think as city officials, we don't necessarily think about how our vision of the region, what our values are, necessarily impact how we're going to be shaping our government going forward for 50 years. And I think sort of being able to step back a little bit from a needs-based assessment and just to really look at our own regional values and how we want those values to inform our spending decisions going forward is a really interesting exercise, and something that I feel really privileged to be able to be part of, and instead of sort of down in the weeds as city officials that we tend to be. So, and it's also been really great to interact with the youth component of this as well. It has given me renewed hope, and so these people are, young people are really impressive, and they have some really great things to say, and are really excited about living here in this region, and what our collective voices could be, when they are adults or our age. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Don't know if anybody has any specific questions about the process or anything else.
Counselors, any questions for any of the folks here? I mean, it's great to hear about the process. I'd heard, Future Vision was going on. I probably saw some kind of social media post or something, but it's good to have a better understanding of it now and what the timeline is and stuff. looks like the council president might have a question.
You preempted me. I was looking online as you started speaking to try and find the 1995 plan. Is that available online, or is it in the new Metro visioning for 2077?
Yes, it's
Okay.
linked on the background tab of our project webpage. It is about 35 pages of typed content, and it has a lovely woodcut on the cover.
Okay, I found that one. Are there the appendices to it? Are those somewhere else, or?
They are harder to dig up.
Okay, yeah.
I am happy to send you links to the ones that exist
If
in.
only to see that amazing map. That's what I was really digging for.
Oh. Yes. I can send you a link to the map.
Okay, not at all necessary, but
Yeah.
just a little academic curiosity. Thanks.
Counselor Khosrowbadi, are you with us? Any questions? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Well,
Just one quick question. Are there ways for youth to be engaged but not in person? Like, are there ways that they can participate and provide input either electronically or, through some other way?
So the Future Fest event on the 15th is designed to be solely in person. We have not necessarily thought about a way to translate the activities of that day to an online format. That's a good question. Later in this process, in early next year, we will again have an online survey that would be broadly available to the community. And then I have not been working as directly with the youth committee as some of my colleagues, but the intent is that the young people on that group are also able to be ambassadors themselves. And I know that they individually have been posting on social media about their involvement in Future Vision. So I don't know if that's also an opportunity to open up some dialogue through their personal interactions with young people in the region.
And how many are representing Clackamas County? Do you know?
I'm sorry, I do not know the answer to that question, but I believe that the locations that the folks are from are on the youth committee website or tab on our website.
I'll do some digging.
Yeah, I can get back to you on that number though. I just don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Council President?
One other question. Yeah, you laid out just this really great engagement timeline that you all are doing. I'm curious, what are the ways you've seen cities meaningfully engage in this, and what forms of engagement from cities would be most helpful in this process?
I'll always defer to a city councilor for talking about what a city can do. But I would say the work is iterative. We have definitely been briefing the folks who are closest to Metro, who serve on our committees. It's been at MPAC and JPAC multiple times. We've even done some updates for Solid Waste Committee, our Committee on Racial Equity. So we are working, I think this is us working to get out and say, what do you need from us? Are you interested in doing more? Obviously connecting us to places like your farmer's market, but are there other ways that we need to be connected and hearing feedback?
And I also think the drivers of change research is really, could be really insightful. There are some really great experts trying to sort of peer into the future and see what forces will be at play that we might not think about today. And I think that could be very useful for cities as well.
So is some of that's kind of in midstream now, but some of it's available on the website? Okay.
The charge of what they call them trailheads, but those trailheads are on the website, so you can see what the charge is for them to do the research on, put the panels together. And then I assume we'll wrap all those up in kind of an excerpt report, even if all of those pieces don't make the vision plan itself. Those would be very applicable for y'all to use. Yeah. Okay. And I would say note that October 8th date, October 8th and October 28th. because both of those are gonna be great days for elected officials to engage.
Counselor Massey?
Yeah, I'm not sure who I want to direct the question to, so I'll just, whoever wants to speak up. And, I think this is a great exercise, and I think you're doing a wonderful job in engagement and that kind of thing. But I kind of want to look even further out, like what's next? Because I see a lot of these vision statements, aspirational, plans, whatever you want to call them. And I think that there's a lot of good brain power that goes into that, and you develop good documents, and then they go on the shelf. And so how do you, I'm really asking this, for, the edification of others who might be doing something similar. How do you keep them alive? How do you actually deliver on those aspirations, over a 50-year period? That's a lot to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the most powerful things that came of the last one is that map. And so it's the fact that you have a visualization, the fact that you have this commitment to city centers that has guided our investment strategy at Metro. So it's not flipping through a 35-page document. It's very easy to hang that map on the wall and remind ourselves that we're trying to knit together town centers, and communities actually need funding for that. So my hope would be that we do end up with a report that's words, but also a visual or an artistic representation that we can kind of put on the wall and help us guide future funding decisions.
That's great, but that's quite a challenge.
Sure it is.
Turning all that into a picture. I look forward to it.
We also discussed trying to have some idea of metrics going forward so that maybe some of these goals and aspirations had a measurable component. We all love that sort of data-driven kind of follow-up. And so I'm hoping we will get some of that in there as well.
Thank you, Council President.
Sorry, one last question, and a little bit of a provocative one, but I'm putting together in a 50-year timeline, our rural reserves will have lapsed. Are you reaching out to any cities that are on the periphery of Metro, like North Plains or Canby, that, who knows, maybe in 50 years could be a part of Metro?
You're right, that is a provocative question. They are not in our outreach plan currently. That said, I think when we have been doing our broad outreach, particularly with the youth, we have swept through getting voices from those communities, and we're not, as far as I know, we're not tossing them out. Are we tossing them out?
No, not at all. We don't have a plan to reach out broadly to the residents of those communities. We do have a plan to engage at a government to government level with them though, and to have that conversation to help make sure that we understand what is in their existing visions, long range plans, so that we can see the similarities and differences between where we're going with this vision right now and what they have already envisioned for themselves. Yeah, whether it's North Plains, Canby, Sandy, Estacada, sort of each of those communities that right now within a metro planning context have that green corridor, right, between the edge of our urbanized area and the start of their urbanized areas.
Okay, well, thank you guys for coming in, and I know it's been a long day for some of you, so I think we don't have any other questions, so we'll let you go, unless you have anything you want to say in closing. No?
Thanks for having us.
Yep, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, moving on to community comments. Council will now hear community comments on city business topics that are not on the agenda. Before we begin, is there follow-up from the July 7th comments, Ms. Saber?
Mayor, the only follow-up is Ms. Teresa Brisa attended our last meeting, and in that, after her comments, I said that I would follow up in writing, which I did. I can provide my written response to all of council so you can see it. Okay. And my thanks to Vera, our planning manager, for her support putting that together.
Great. All right. I do not have any yellow cards for anyone wishing to do community comments. Is there anybody online, Mr. Stauffer?
We do have a Zoom audience, but there are no hands raised.
Okay, So I'm going to forego the rest of the script about community comments and go on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the City Council June 19th, June 9, 2026 site visit, June 16th, 2026 work session, and June 16th, 2026 regular session. A resolution acting as the local contract review board authorizing an increase in the contract for the design and project management services of the King Road Improvement Project with Kittleson and Associates, Inc. Does any council member wish to remove a consent agenda item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as revised.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed say no. None heard. It passes unanimously. All right, next item. Oh, he's already up there. Assistant City Manager Joseph Brilio and No Sierra on community survey results.
Yeah, solo. Well, actually not solo, but I'll get to that in a second. Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm here to bring to you the community survey results. Many of you know that we started the process for the community survey earlier this year. I shared all the results in some of the final document with you all back in April. We intended to have the presentation to you in May, but lightning struck and we canceled that meeting. So we had to reschedule some things. So that's why we're here tonight in July. And who is with me tonight is Dr. Tanisha Tate-Woodson. Nice to see you. Who helped, was the project manager for this, as well as someone who knows quite a bit about statistically valid surveys. So I'm going to pass it off to you, Dr. Woodson, in a second, but just wanted to remind council that the survey is essentially, it's a longitudinal, we do it in a way where we ask the same questions for longitudinal purposes to see how we do over year after year. This year we did add a few things and retool some questions to address a couple of your concerns. If you remember, this was back late last winter. We talked about adding some park-specific questions, so we'll talk about those tonight, obviously. Some utility assistance awareness questions, as well as a few questions about solid waste services. And so you'll see those as well. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Woodson to take us through the results, and you can ask us any questions along the way.
Before Dr. Woodson starts, these weren't in, you had sent these to us back a couple months ago, but they weren't in the packet. Will they be put in the packet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dr. Woodson, I hope you don't mind us asking questions as you go, because I think there's so much info here that it'll be hard to track back. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. I'm a little, most of this doesn't surprise me, but the 58% male surprises me. Is that representative of the demographics of Milwaukee? Or is that just, I mean, yeah, it's not what I tell you I would see on social media. I see more women on social media, but anyway. Um, mhm, mhm, mhm. So you actually sought out to interview more men, identifying people that identify as male? Okay. Uh-huh. Ah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Uh-oh. Sorry, Dr. Woodson, your sound has cut off here. If you can stop just a moment. We've got to figure out why your sound quit coming through. Oh, okay, you're back.
or other characteristics, those are not called out because those were not found statistically different in terms of the data in which we looked at. So we also noticed with the findings that about 8 in 10 residents had approved of the quality of the city services that were offered. So we wanted to know, in general, do you approve or disapprove of the quality of services provided by the city of Milwaukee? And we looked at 3 in particular. We wanted to see how city seeks residents' input, how the city spends the tax dollars, and also the quality of city services. And as you see here, overall, there's general approval of which things are operating as well. And we noticed that even still, those same trends kind of popped up as we saw in the last question, whereas across all 3 questions, Black residents, as well as those younger adults between the ages of 18 and 29 years, as well as those residents who lived in the city for less than 4 years, those were amongst those that reported some of the lowest approval by significant margin compared to others that were in the sample as well. We also noticed that that also exists amongst households without children and those that were earning less than $60,000 annually were also amongst those that consistently reported the lowest approval. So overall, while there is general approval moving in the right direction, there are some subgroups of the population that experience this a lot differently, and those are the ones that are called out here. We also notice when it comes to asking individuals, about their level of confidence that the city staff are delivering on their core values, we notice that overall people are relatively feel confident that individuals or city departments are moving forward with those core values, such as around equity when it comes to collaboration, efficiency, as well as being accessible and accountable. And so amongst those, again, we see pretty much high remarks when it comes to the overall level of satisfaction. But again, some of those same groups that we saw in the previous slides expressed a lower satisfaction with city services, also expressed a low confidence in the way that the city operates across those 5 core values as well. And again, those were some that represent as Black residents, individuals that were between the ages of 18 and 29, some that were born and raised in the city, as well as those households that were earning less than 60%, also were significantly less likely than their counterparts to feel confident in the way that a city operates across those core values. Well, we also noticed that when it came to satisfaction with city services, there was some variation in terms of based off of how long people lived in the city. So one of the questions that we asked is we provided them with a list of services. And after each service, we wanted to know how satisfied were they with those services. So some of them, which are here provided on the slide, which are the library programs, the stormwater and utility providing programs and also programs such as hosting and supporting community events. We also ask about police services and supporting local businesses, as well as sharing info and engaging with the communities. And again, we see pretty high remarks across the board, whereas the majority of individuals feel very satisfied or even somewhat satisfied with the level of services that are provided. But we also noticed that the not so satisfied rates were pretty prevalent amongst those that were non-white, as well as those that were between those ages of 18 to 29, and even some residents that were born and raised in the city as well. So we wanted to focus on 5 main recommendations that kind of came from the work that we looked at. And I'm going to take you through a section of each of those 5 recommendations. The first of which is There's opportunities based off of the findings from this study for the city to do a little bit more with closing the feedback loop when it comes to providing more input and follow through with the residents. There's opportunities to really simplify and diversify communications and communications channels and modality of reaching different residents. There's opportunities to meet residents where they are and where they naturally convene and in places that they naturally gather, as well as opportunities to really identify and hone in on the housing issue and making that an equity priority, as well as opportunities to invest in the safety of the city and their residents overall. So I want to focus on the first recommendation, which was around closing the loop. And this came from really thinking about how do individuals currently participate in city government currently. And so we noticed that older, as well as high income and longer tenured residents really dominate those formal channels in terms of like the public meetings, the boards, and the committees. And younger residents are engaging, but more so digitally. So that's like through the website and through media. And so this really shows like the way in which people are engaging in the city really kind of divides based off of like who they are and the age of that group as well. We also noticed that residents are more likely to participate when they see that their input actually leads to outcomes and when they feel welcome in the process as well. So we noticed overall that 20% recognize that they will feel more inclined to engage in the process when they feel like there's some transparency in how decisions are being made, as well as when there are a follow-through process is actually happening. So really showing residents that their inputs actually lead to real change. And this was a message that was really consistent across all demographic groups. Where we noticed that, 20% really represent equally those that represent those different subsections of the population. We also noticed that individuals appreciate having more clear communication and agenda, so using really plain language, providing advanced agendas, and also really having accessible topics. Was really strong across every age group that there was. And also the importance of having flexible scheduling. So in terms of evening opportunities, weekend opportunities, maybe even shorter meetings as well, because individuals identified as some structural or the timing of which meetings happen sometimes interfere with individuals' ability to really participate. So really honing in on that stat around 20% who really said that they, would participate more if they saw that the evidence or the input that they provide really led to real outcomes. And so some of the illustrative quotes that came from the survey were, I've gone to meetings before, I shared what I thought, but nothing happened, so why would I go back? Others have said, more regular progress updates will help maintain interest. And another person mentioned that knowing that my comments are reviewed and responded to will increase my chances of participation. So again, these were individuals of various ages and income levels and even racial backgrounds really cited this as really the most important aspect for them. So I want to also focus on, the different ways in which people connect with in terms of communication. And so we wanted to test out what are the different modes in which individuals are or sources that they are generally utilizing to get their news about the city of Milwaukie. So we tested out different options such as your local network TV news or even your local news websites, as well as blogs or newspapers, as well as the city website as well. And we see some of the top contenders were the local news and TV station, as well as the city website. And some of the ones that were less utilized were around the email news blast that goes out, or even some of the city newsletters that goes out. That was only about 20% of the population had identified that as being some of their sources.
Can you
Oh, we-
talk, I'm sorry, could you talk a little bit about specifically the pilot, the one, sort of how that has changed? Is this something we've tracked in past surveys? Because I will tell you, the city tried to eliminate the pilot or tried to go just electronic on the pilot about 8 years ago, and there was a huge outcry. So I'm interested to know, how dramatic that has changed over, the years since COVID, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't have that number right here in front of me now, but I could look that up for you and provide that, as well as to see if there was any subgroup analyses. So for instance, if there was a certain demographic that was using it more so than in other demographics. So I can follow up with you regarding the
And I'll
pilot.
share, Mayor, we were surprised too, because in the past community surveys I've been here for, the pilot's been a higher response, so that will be interesting to dig into that. But I didn't know that there was a time when they
Yep.
tried to kill. Anne always just told me it was impossible.
Yeah, no, there was a time where it was, it was a budgetary thing and they decided to just do an electronic one and try and do it that way. And that lasted about 6 or 8 months and yeah.
Yeah. And I will say that the age divide on this was very dramatic. So we saw that young adults, of course, are on the social media, but they're also on the city website. And we saw that older adults rely on neighbors, neighborhood meetings, and the TV to get their news. We also noticed that higher income households read the newsletters, and we noticed that lower income households were on social media. So overall, one channel is not, going to meet all populations, but the variety of all of it working together is really important.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so we also, and this kind of echoes the sentiment that I was saying before, is that no channel really reaches the majority of all residents. So really a multi-channel approach to communication is really, really important. We ask also, what is the way you most prefer to get your news about the city of Milwaukee? So whereas the other question asks, you choose all of them, all of the different methods that you use, just this question asks in particular for them to be very selective and to identify the one. And so we saw that what rises to the top when they have to do this is that local news and local network TV news rose to the top, as well as the city's website. And again, email, news blasts, as well as the city newsletter were some of those lower ranking options that were across that. And we also know that TV skews a little bit more towards Black and Hispanic residents. And the newsletter was more so towards the higher income households. And we also noticed that social media was an option that really skewed towards the younger as well as the lower income households. So really just thinking about the type of populations that want to be reached and the best ways to reach them as well.
I thought this was interesting because the local TV news and the local newspapers don't really cover Milwaukee unless it's a police incident of some sort. I mean, we don't get, we occasionally get a coverage for our events, for the Bing in the New Year and other events, but it's not like they're covering day-to-day Milwaukee stuff. So interesting.
Yeah, and so we also ask them about, choice of language, and, people also recognize that language is also a potential civic barrier as well. So as we noticed with our survey, that 9% of the survey answered the survey in Spanish. And so, which represents that there is a need for having hybrid or bilingual meeting formats, as well as opportunities to see different documents to be translated in Spanish as well. And across the survey, we noticed that Spanish-speaking respondents specifically requested bilingual facilitation at city events, materials that are translated into Spanish, online and hybrid meeting options, as well as a more welcoming and culturally responsive atmosphere as well. And one illustrative quote that came through that is there in gray is that, meetings should offer virtual participation options or recordings to really encourage broader participation, and making those options bilingual is really important. And then when it comes to the communication channels and making sure that it's reaching the appropriate individuals that could really take advantage of those services, we wanted to see, are individuals aware that the city offer utility billing assistance to lower income households? And we noticed that 77% of those respondents indicated that yes, they are aware, and that 23% said that no, they were not aware. But the good part about this finding is that those that are said that they are not aware are usually not the ones that are utilizing the services. So the large majority of those that said that they were not aware were higher income households, and individuals that would not necessarily take advantage of that service. Whereas those that were a part of those lower income households were significantly more aware that exists. So one of the third recommendations that came from this findings were also to meet residents where they are. And so what we noticed is that the least satisfied groups are also least likely to attend the city meetings, but this is not because they just don't care. It's more so because they see that they are facing some structural barriers that does not allow them to show up and be able to attend. So we noticed that 27% of residents who identify as Black, they cited that scheduling was a barrier for them. And this was significantly more than the overall population, whereas the overall sample was about 15% saw this as an issue. Closer to double of that, 27% of Black residents saw that this was an issue. We also noticed that amongst those that were least satisfied, they also were least engaged because they wanted to see more interactive formats for being able to engage. And also 7% of those respondents who identify as Hispanic, they wanted to see more virtual as well as hybrid options to create spaces in which they were able to fully participate and be a part of those convenings. And again, one of the things that came forth is that residents wanted to be able to understand and feel that they could really trust the city government, as well as seeing that there is an inclusive and very welcoming environment for them. And one of the things that came up is around, really naming that there's some fundamental distrust of government that sometimes becomes a barrier to engagement. And that they wanted to make sure that this is a little bit different from just transparency alone. They really wanted to understand and see that the city really has some intentions to take in their input and to become accountable to their input. So one illustrative quote that came forth was, I'll need to believe the city leadership is actually listening and not just going through the motions in the process. Again, one other thing that came forward is around creating inclusive and welcoming environments. Respondents really wanted to see the translation of services, having more culturally responsive facilitation, and also a less formal atmosphere as well. So a more welcoming and less formal atmosphere that feels inclusive will increase my participation. It was a quote that came forth as well. And these are, small in numbers. This was an important theme that we saw reflected enough. And so we wanted to make sure that we bring forth those as sometimes easier fixes that could be done to help increase trust, transparency, as well as creating more welcoming environment. We also noticed that non-white residents and also lower income households place significantly higher importance on equitable and multicultural event planning. So we see here, when we ask the question, as the city plans for future events, there are numbers of goals that they could prioritize. Please tell us whether you think that each one is extremely important, very important, somewhat important, or not too important. So we see here that overall 92% felt that it was important for them to have events that were help community groups to put on events. We also saw that they wanted to see more multicultural events, as well as more events in different parts of the city as well. So this really kind of connects to the theme of, meeting residents where they are and providing opportunities that really help them be able to identify what the events and really want to show up for those as well. We also ask about the importance of the letting library services in terms of providing weekend hours of operations. And so we noticed that 3 in 4 residents indicated that weekend hours are important to them. So staying open on weekends in the daytime was really something that 3/4 of the population found to be really important. And we also noticed that when we did some subgroup analyses, that lower income households earning less than 80K are significantly more likely to rate the weekend daytime library hours as extremely or very important compared to households that was earning 150K and more, which really suggests that these hours, serve as a critical access point for residents with less scheduling flexibility. And we also noticed that some priorities, library priorities, really vary by age. And so we wanted to hear more about the different services in terms of the availability of ebooks and e-audiobooks, as well as programming for adults and access to technology, as well as being open after 5 p.m. on weekends. And we know in terms of the level of importance, around 82% of the respondents indicated that availability of ebooks and e-audiobooks was something that was really important to the overall group. But we also noticed that there was some trends that kind of took place throughout, whereas younger residents placed significantly greater importance on the weekend and evening hours, while older residents prioritized technology access, off-site library services such as the hold lockers and book mobile locations as well. And we also noticed that adult programming is significantly more important to lower income households than to higher income households, as well as higher income households were also less likely to value electronic materials, which really suggests that they already have their own private access to those things.
Can I ask you, you have a question here about the importance of open after 5 p.m. on weekends, but was there a corollary question about the interest in evening hours on weekdays?
We did not, let's see, I think.
That's the conversation I've had with the library director.
I don't believe we did, but
yeah,
let's double check.
Yeah, I could double check that, but that might be something to add to the next iteration of this. But no, I don't think we asked for it during the weekday.
Okay, thank you.
And so we also asked around about, while the city of Milwaukie owns its parks, they are maintained and operated by North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. And we wanted people to tell us whether you are satisfied or dissatisfied with each of the following aspects. So when it comes to maintenance of parks and park amenities, or even the number of activities at local parks, quality of activities at local parks, we wanted to see how satisfied they are with that. And in general, the community is pretty satisfied. We saw the lowest percentage of satisfaction was around 78%, whereas the highest was around 88%, expressing that they were satisfied with the number of parks there are in Milwaukie. But we also noticed that access to and satisfaction with these amenities is shaped, significantly by race and age and income, as well as length of time in Milwaukie. Whereas we noticed that Black residents reported dissatisfaction rates that were 2 to 3 times higher than white residents across all 4 of these metrics. And we also noticed that non-white residents are significantly less satisfied than white residents on each of those items as well. And one of the caveats for the survey is that we're not able to dig into the weeds of each one of these things and figure out, what is driving those levels of dissatisfaction. But we were noticing that even still amongst residents that were between the ages of 18 and 29, as well as those that were born and raised within the city, consistently ranked among the most dissatisfied groups. And their levels of dissatisfaction really ranged from anywhere from 47 to 75% across each of those metrics. So some of the younger populations, as well as those that were born and raised, expressed some fairly dissatisfied. So what you're seeing that's driving those levels of dissatisfaction is partly due to those demographic groups.
Excuse me a second, Councilor Stavanger, I think has a question for you.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. So I have a couple questions about the survey as it pertains to younger residents. Do you have an idea, what's the sample size for the population between 18 and 29?
Within our sample?
Correct.
Yes, let me. So if I go back to the earlier slide, the 18 to 29 group was about 16% of the sample.
And the total sample, I'm sorry, was what?
500.
500, okay. So I mentioned this last year when we went through the results and possibly the year before, but we don't have a way of asking these same questions to youth under the age of 18. And yet we consistently ask them to be involved in things like we just heard from Metro about the future of the region, and they're involving young people in that conversation, but we don't measure their satisfaction with the city that they live in. And I think that we're starting to draw conclusions about things that we should be investing in and looking at a slice of a fairly small sample size already to extrapolate, the satisfaction with services, but we're saying younger residents, and we're really not including anyone under the age of 18. So I would love for us finally to have a conversation about what it means to get the input of residents under 18 in either a supplement to this. We can use some of the same questions, whatever that ends up looking like. I think it's just time. We're asking youth to be involved in committees and other things that shape the city, but we're not including them in this wealth of information that then drives our decisions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe even as you guys consider ways to engage the youth, think about different ways in which they may want to express themselves. We do a lot of youth work, and sometimes surveys is not the way in which they want to kind of show up and express themselves. But we recognize that we want the larger numbers to be able to express that. And sometimes with trying to survey youth, it comes to the research ethics and having to get different approvals to be able to do studies that will allow you to ethically show up and be able to do that sampling. One way that I've seen different people do it, which is not always the best option, is to use adults with children under the age of 18 as a proxy to get that information. But that's, these are all imperfect ways of doing it, but there's some ways in which, if you don't want to kind of tread a line of having to engage people who are under 18 in a survey sample.
Counselor, can I ask, I think the point is incredibly well taken, and we can absolutely, as we prepare for our next biannual survey, think of ways to proactively address that question. Can I ask, are you kind of making a motion or asking your colleagues to consider providing direction to us to do some additional engagement for the under 18 population now, because if so, that's great. I'd love to see if there's consensus direction there, and we can come back with a proposal for how we would do that and how we would fit that in with work plans.
Do you all feel okay weighing in on that question?
I'm okay to weigh in on it. I did want a little bit more clarity on what Dr. Woodson said about, I mean, she seemed to be indicating there's a parental permission kind of aspect.
Yeah.
Does that kick in at
Yes.
18 or does that kick in at 15 or 16? Is there an age?
Under the age of 18.
You really do have to have parental permission?
From a research ethics standpoint, yes, that's usually suggested. And then, but if you have your mechanisms of, like, for instance, if you have youth advisory council or if you have youth groups that you could already get connected to, and you have some trusted relationships there, you could probably provide a survey to those sources. So any like community-based organizations that are youth, that heavily involved with youth, maybe that's a way, but in general, it is highly suggested to get parental consent, to do this in a with research and ethics.
So I think that there are research standards that apply to, if you're planning to publish the results of a study, if you're asking sensitive questions, if you're asking questions about, personal activities. Like I'm thinking about some of the surveys that are distributed through like Oregon Healthy Teens, things along those lines. It needs to be sent out to families, but asking whether the city should invest more in parks, I think that's probably an okay question to ask without parental involvement.
And I wonder if the kind of nuance here is like the way they do the random sampling and the way they find the people to contact is through voter rolls and various things like that. So I think we could absolutely construct a way to survey youth in Milwaukie that complies with all kind of ethical things. And we would just need some time to come back to you with the proposal for how we're going to do that, if that's the direction you give us tonight.
Okay, yeah, I think the methodology could vary. I don't know that that would skew the results very much at all. I think you would try and, cast as wide a net as possible, and work with as many youth serving organizations and community groups as possible. But if the questions are the same, then I think that the methodology could vary slightly, and you would still have a valid sample to pull from. So I guess the question for my colleagues is, are you in favor of a request to city staff to develop a proposal around gathering similar information from youth under the age of 18?
Now versus at the next survey. Yeah.
Yes.
Thoughts on that, counselors? Council President.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but what you're describing to me, which I think is a good direction to go, is it does not have to be a statistically significant, academically perfect survey. Like, this is more about meaningfully engaging youth members of our community as widely as possible.
Right.
And I think that that is a really worthwhile venture. I think I would be happy to support something like that and giving that direction. I think that one thing we can think about here is how can we use our council engagement budgets to be able to help fund something like this? And I think if folks are worried that staff capacity is going to be a constraint here, what are ways that we can plug in counselors to be able to help move this forward? Because I think this is really exciting engagement work. And if you tell us marching orders of the best way we could go about this, or we have time to collectively think about that on this dais, I think we could do something really exciting that I think would be helpful feedback for us going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, it depends on if you want kind of that raw numbers alone type of information, or if you also want to get that deeper descriptive level of, in terms of what exactly do they want and kind of like their vision. Could also be a different approach that you take if you're engaging them already. If you wanted to do not just a survey, but something more qualitatively as well, it could be some options that you could pursue. So there's a wide lens of different modalities that you could use. There's no like perfect method, especially if you're not concerned about a statistically representative sample of the community.
Sure, we could do something that's supplementary to this study, like a few focus groups with representative samples of youth that would want to weigh in on these questions and provide their feedback qualitatively. I mean, right now, we're working with a baseline of nothing, so
Yes,
it would be
something
great to
to be.
build something in.
Counselor Khosrowbadi?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to express my support for Councilor Stanford's idea. I think it's very thoughtful and important for us to know that information. So thank you.
Yes, Counselor Massey?
Yes, I'm in support of, gaining some insight into this younger demographic. But did I hear something about doing it now versus rather than in the next survey? Is the proposal to do something now?
My
rather than
proposal,
wait?
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Because this is something that I brought up the last time we did this survey. And I expressed concern about missing out on a huge population of our city residents. And when you think about it, people are 16 years old getting driver's licenses. They should be weighing in on public transit. They should be weighing in on climate change. They should be weighing in on the quality of the roads and the safety of being able to bike through the city. They have that independence. They're getting, with their license comes a note from the Secretary of State's office saying, motor voter, you're registered, you'll get your ballot at 18. So there's a level of engagement and autonomy that they're getting now, but they're not seeing that from us asking their input about the city they live in.
Okay, understood. I would just also offer that doing any kind of survey or a focus group or anything like that is maybe a little bit more complicated than a lot of people think. And so I would want to make sure that we have some expertise involved in doing that, because these surveys, they can look simple to the outside, but for them to be statistically valid, there's really a lot of thought that goes behind it. So I would just caution us that let's not do something on the back of an envelope.
I'm happy to lend my expertise, and I'm also happy to provide examples of what that has consisted over the last 20 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think we're sort of giving up on the idea that it's necessarily going to be statistically valid. But we also know that even doing it in the next survey is going to be problematic because of the ethical questions about parental, permissions and stuff. So, I mean, we need to find whatever the right mechanism is, and I don't see a reason to wait.
Yeah. So
For the next survey on that.
this is really helpful. What we'll do is we'll circle up and we'll come back with a proposal for a near-term youth engagement addendum or supplement to this year's community survey. We'll also make a note that for when we start planning for the next biennial community survey, we bake that in, whether that is as part of the statistically valid scope or again, an addendum because of the methodological needs to ensure that we're doing everything in a compliant way. So
Thank you.
yeah,
I really
thank you,
appreciate
Counselor.
that. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, sorry, Dr.
Hey.
Woodson, we'll let you get back to your presentation.
Yes, and I do want to honor the time, so I'm going to move fairly quickly through these last two recommendations. So recommendation 4 of which was address the housing as an equity priority. And so we noticed that about 13% cited housing as their top concern. And we noticed that there was some differences amongst some subgroup analyses. And so we saw that 27% of Black respondents had indicated that this was a priority for them, as well as about 19% of renters, compared to about 9% of homeowners, as well as 18% of individuals that were between the ages of 18 to 25, which was nearly 3 times the rate of someone that was 65 and older, representing this as a very important topical area. Some of the illustrative quotes that came out is that rents keep going up, and I keep hearing about new developments, but nothing is built for people like me. When does that change? Another quote that stood out is that affordable housing is very limited in Milwaukie, which can be the reason that people become homeless as well. So those were 2 quotes that stood out in that area of this survey. We also noticed that nearly all younger residents and individuals that were born and raised residents say that Milwaukie has become less affordable than the overall region. And we noticed about in the sample, we see about 49% says that it is less affordable than the rest of the region, whereas only 6% says that it is more affordable than the rest of the region. So residents are feeling the squeeze and really are reflecting that throughout this item in the survey. We also noticed that in the 5th and final recommendation that investments in safety and holistically thinking about safety was something really important that came through in the survey. When it comes to safety, they have mentioned that public safety and crime is really important. So about 17% had noticed that this was a really important issue that was top of mind for them. So public safety is the most important thing for me, including preventing crime and improving neighborhood safety. This issue should be addressed immediate as it involves resident safety. We also noticed that when it comes to the infrastructure and road safety, that this was also important. So making traffic smoother and less congested should be also a priority. And we also noticed that when it comes to housing and affordability and those infrastructural pieces, that was important because the non-availability of stable and reasonably priced housing is one of the important issues that needs to be addressed. We also noticed that about 10% said that, thinking about environment and sustainability is also important. So the most important issue is increasing greenery and tree coverage across Milwaukie, which would improve air quality, reduce heat, and make neighborhoods healthier and more enjoyable for residents as well.
Can I ask about this? So when I saw this slide, my first question was, were you giving people a multiple choice list to pick from, or were you asking an open-ended question where people said, this is my top concern, and you fit it into a category that you had a list of categories?
Yeah, this was an open-ended question for folks to complete in their own words.
Okay.
And so we use those open-ended responses to bubble those up, as you were saying, into larger topical areas and categories.
Okay. And then it sounds to me like if you sorted this on people under 30, that it would maybe come out differently. The housing and affordability would come out as the top.
As the top choices, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And so also, just like when they're thinking about safety, they're thinking about everything from lighting, sidewalks, as well as response rates. So overall public safety, more than just policing, but the overall infrastructure is really important. We also noticed that when we dig a little bit deeper in that 17% that said public safety and crime was really important. And this was also the most frequently cited concern that really exists across all demographic characteristics. They noticed that safety means, good lighting, working sidewalks, and knowing help will come when you call. Crime and slow emergency response are the biggest concerns, and I think the city should address those first. We noticed that this really stood out amongst Black residents whereas we saw that 22% of those respondents identified this as an issue. And we also noticed that homeowners, about 19%, identified this as an issue as well, where they're describing crime prevention, law enforcement, emergency response. All of those issues combined really impact their perception of the city and neighborhood safety. In terms of, roads and infrastructure, we saw that about 14% of residents named this as their top priority. And this really stands out again amongst those that identify as Black, as well as those that identify as young adults between the ages of 18 and 29. Some of those things that really came forth was that they talked about the road conditions and potholes as daily frustrations, traffic congestion and speeding as safety concerns, and also the connection between tax increases and the expectation of visible improvements was also something that they wanted to see. One of the quotes that came forth was, "I want to see better road repairs and more frequent transportation services, especially since taxes keep going up." Is one of the quotes that came out.
Yeah, they don't understand our tax system, but because our taxes haven't been going up. But can you tell me that this? I know we've asked these kind of questions in years past. Has there been any significant change? I was a little surprised by how much this was called out as an issue because the city really has done a lot of paving over the last 3 summers. And is this a lower number than it was a couple surveys back?
Yeah, this is a good question. I'm going to see how it was worded in the previous survey as well. And then I could be able to follow up with that in addition to that pilot newsletter question to see if there was significant differences between the last survey.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so some of the last bit is around, core safety and infrastructure services. They were overall very important to Milwaukie residents, where no one said any of these were not important at all. It was just some variation in terms of whether they thought it was extremely or very important. So we listed off each of these services and asked people to let us know how important they were. So, of course, police services, maintaining streets, addressing issues of public safety, providing utilities, and creating safe spaces to walk and to bike. All of those were important services for them. Just one that stands out as, extremely important were in terms of police services. So nobody listed these as not important. And then when it comes to overall, when we ask how satisfied are you with the city services in terms of pedestrian and bike safety, residents who are already the most dissatisfied overall with the city feel it most when they think about streets and safeties and getting around. So again, those were those that identified as Black residents, as well as some individuals that were born and raised in the city. Those were areas that they consistently felt like they were not overall satisfied with some of the services that was there. And then lastly, just general key takeaways that we see from this survey is that overall there is very strong satisfaction with the overall city services but we see that to make some changes that there are some significant equity gaps in terms of who is experiencing what. And so as we saw that, while 85% of residents are satisfied with the quality of life, we noticed that approval really differs for those that are Black residents as well as those that are younger adults, and sometimes even those that are renters as well. Again, infrastructure is one of the key top priorities with public safety and streets, as well as water and sewer services and walking and bike safety are some of those important areas that they want to see addressed. We mentioned this before around the library services. They are highly valued, but wanting to see additional technology access and keeping the ebooks and those audiobooks, as well as some weekend hours, could be something that they could really utilize and be really important. And we also noticed that, communication and participation patterns, that really changes based off of age and also in terms of racial and language preferences. So really thinking about the channels that reach individuals the most and who are those demographic characteristics, as well as making sure that there are some opportunities for individuals to connect who are non-English speaking residents as well. And we also noticed, I think this was probably to your earlier point about any trends that we noticed since the 2022 survey. And this was around the Milwaukie pilot newsletter that is dropped sharply as like a news source for individuals. So I think it was a little bit higher in the previous survey. And I could go back and check those exact numbers, but it dropped, it seems like sharply in this iteration as a news source, while the digital channels kind of grew more substantially in this findings of the report. So those are all of our findings. So just thank you so much for taking the time and looking through this and engaging conversations. I know this was quite a bit to get through in our time together.
Thank you, Dr. Woodson. Any questions folks have? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Massey's been waiting.
Dr. Woodson, thank you for the presentation. In my experience in these surveys, there's two ways you can go. You can go to a very standardized survey that's easily comparable, to internally within your own organization over time. And that also lends itself to comparison to other peer organizations like other cities. And so do you feel like we have a standardized or a more specialized survey here?
When I compare this survey to the previous iteration, there were some similarities in terms of the questions and the wording of the questions, but also there were some priority shifts that were happening within the city. And so we wanted to create space for some newer questions and some newer ways of knowing information. So this was, although there were some questions that are kind of universal when it comes to overall satisfaction of living in the city or quality of life, those are some questions that we see across a lot of city surveys that we're doing. But there was a lot of questions where we wanted to really know things specifically for your community, as well as some priorities that the city was looking at as well. And then the other thing that we had to contend with is making sure that the survey was not too long to produce burden onto the respondent, because we wanted to make sure we got some good responses and that respondents didn't experience survey fatigue. So there was more questions that we had to really make some cuts to. And some of those were possibly questions that were asked in previous years. But when we thought about the priority areas, those were top of mind in terms of priority areas.
So do you feel like we can use these effectively to compare internally from year to year within the city?
There are some metrics, yes, that you'll be able to use to compare from year to year, yes.
And so my last question is, do you think that we have enough standardized questions to actually do benchmarking with other similar cities that you survey?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would be
There was
interesting as well.
quite a few questions that were asked over the past iterations of the surveys that are asked in other surveys that could definitely be used as benchmarks.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Yeah, I could go on. I mean, I like to dig into this kind of stuff, but we have other things on our agenda, so I won't do that. I will resist that urge. But interesting stuff here. Would like to, see how some of these things compare year after year. And some of them that we asked, I mean, I appreciate staff asking the questions about the bulky waste day and the food composting, because we needed to know those. They're not necessarily questions we now need to ask again. It was important to kind of know those for our solid waste rate discussions, but they're not probably things we have to keep tracking.
Mayor Beatty.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, Councilor Khosrowshahi.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you, Doctor, for the work and the time and energy that was put into this. It's really important information. It's sobering. It's humbling as well, considering how much we've invested in and how much good that we know we've put into the city. We know we still have a lot of work to do. And you know, there's a lot of items on there that fall on us as individual council members to do those items, to do those things. So I appreciate you highlighting this and really giving us a good temperature gauge of what we're doing and where we're headed and where we need to do better.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. And I will say, I mean, some things were not a surprise and some things were a surprise. So it was really informative. If no other questions for Dr. Woodson, Joseph, anything else to close out, or Emma?
Just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Woodson. Again, it's been great working with you. I wasn't sure if part of the presentation we missed question 8. You have it in the final, but did we cover? Because I think it's actually really important. It's one of the main questions that counselors wanted us to ask about investing more in parks. And it's one of the ones that actually splits pretty evenly. And I don't know did we already hit it? I'm sorry if we bring it up again. I just didn't see it, or I might have been reading something else. But that's it.
It was in the presentation, but I think we started our other discussion and it probably got missed. I'm gonna.
Well, and we definitely talked about the satisfaction level with parks, but I don't know if we talked about the investment.
This was the question about would you be willing to pay more in property tax for additional parks and recreational services? So that's just one I thought would be, it's very alive and well in our thinking right now.
Yes, that's a good point to raise up, and it was almost an even split, whereas 59% saying they will be willing, but about 41% said that they would not be willing. And I think that was one of the questions where we saw the most distance in terms of how community was feeling, or even a split between that. And we noticed that low willingness to pay did not necessarily mean that they do not value it, but that groups that were least willing to pay are some of the same groups that has the greatest financial strain, and also the greatest level of dissatisfaction. We're amongst those groups that were not willing to pay more.
Yeah, I was interested by the, obviously people who are economically in distress are not, do not want to pay more for things. But I was a little surprised by the born and raised residents, both on the satisfaction and this one, because I think, they have been here. They know how many as opposed to somebody who just moved here in the last 10 years, they know how many more parks there are now than there were 20 years ago or whatever. So it was interesting to me that there was a lower satisfaction rate with that group. Anyway.
I just want to add my thanks to Dr. Woodson and to Joseph on the staff side for project managing this. It's a big lift, but it's super important for us data nerds who want to make data-driven decisions. It's also a good opportunity for me to share that we are going to be looking for a time for a joint meeting of council and the Equity Steering Committee this fall, so that we can continue to advance our metrics work, which is very related to some of the data points that we track longitudinally. And I really appreciate your comments, Councilor Massey, about benchmarking other cities, because it's important to compare against ourselves and how we're doing, but also compare against our peers. So. Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up the joint meeting with the ESC, because that's what I was thinking when Dr. Woodson was just early in her presentation. I thought, oh, there's a lot of stuff here we need to have a discussion with the ESC about.
We'll make sure that this is shared with the ESC.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, thank you, Dr. Woodson.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. I hope you continue to lean on this report. I know it's very rich, but I hope you continue to use it as you make those data decisions moving forward. And if we could be of any use to you, we're always here to help. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye. All right, next thing on our agenda is a climate update from our Climate and Natural Resources Manager, Katie Gavaris. And she has in the wings a Climate Action Committee update as well. Does anybody need a break before we? Okay.
No way. I wore my diapers
Katie's just glad she's up at 8:30 this time.
The night is so young. Well, good evening, Council, Mayor, Council President. What a treat to be here tonight to talk about our climate update. So tonight we'll give an overview of our climate action efforts and get council direction on future priorities. And then we have the honor to hear from our chair and vice chair of our newly formed Climate Action Committee to share some updates on what we've been up to for the first 6 months of the committee and what are our priorities going forward. And so we'll get started though with some actions and highlights from our climate action work. So to start off with some fun updates. In our transportation electrification world, we have an exciting new project at Milwaukie Marketplace where 8 new level 2 EV charging ports are being installed. We worked with PGE in their business and multifamily Make Ready program. And the city was doing outreach and talking to different property owners on where we could take advantage of this really great program. And New Seasons helped us get in touch with the then new property owners of Milwaukie Marketplace. And they were incredibly receptive. And so this program, PGE provides incentives for the design study and a significant part of the transformer update. And any of the infrastructure related work. And then we did a collaborative funding effort so that this could really be realized, knowing that these are a really critical part of town for public chargers. We're surrounded by multifamily housing, and it's such a hub of commercial activity where folks stay and park for a while. And so then the city helped contribute for some of those infrastructure updates, and then Milwaukie Marketplace paid for and will continue to maintain the actual EV chargers themselves. And so we've been working on this program for about 1.5 years now, and we're finally at the home stretch. So at the beginning of July, we had our final inspection of the transformer upgrade. And then in August, the Milwaukie Marketplace will be installing their EV chargers. So those have been ordered and are on their way. And then in September, they'll be open to the public. And so we're in conversation on how to celebrate and potentially do a ribbon cutting. And those details will be shared with you all soon.
Katie, I have 2 quick questions, and I'm very excited about this. As I took my first Club Pilates Milwaukee class, I was like, I could be charging right now. Where are they going to be in the Milwaukie Marketplace?
Oh, that's a really good question. So they will be right in front of the Starbucks and New Seasons,
Nice.
kind of right as you enter the Milwaukie Marketplace parking lot.
That's
Well,
awesome.
I thought I saw them working there a few months ago, but then it all disappeared, and I was like, well, is that where they are? Or,
That's great. And then will it be paid charging? And do they know kind of what provider, or like, is it one of the charge point or something like that?
It will be paid parking or paid charging, and We do know which EV charger it will be, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So I will follow up with you all tomorrow. I'm happy to provide the rate that Milwaukie Marketplace is also charging at. It's within PGE's program, sets a threshold for the charging prices within the first 10 years. I can also share where Milwaukie Marketplace landed on that. So then our second fun update on transportation electrification is that we have been participating in the Interstate Renewable Energy Council's Charging Smart program. And for this participation, we will be receiving a bronze designation next month. And this program really helped walk through an audit of our EV planning, permitting, and operations, and helped us identify areas where we could, for improvements, areas for streamlined processes, and where we could strengthen our communications. One of the reasons we qualified for the designation is recognizing the really strong coordination we have with PGE on electric or EV and transportation electrification efforts. And then we've also been working to strengthen our education materials based off of the recommendations. So we have a new EV portion of the climate and sustainability website that will be hopefully up and open to the public as early as next week. And so that walks through not only the benefits and areas to learn more and kind of ongoing tracking of incentives, it also walks through the full process on all the permitting process to get an EV charger set up. And so we've been working with our community development department on spelling that all out so that it creates more transparency and ease for folks who have questions.
That's exciting. If that's the end of transportation, I just wanted to ask, we were part of a multi-city federal allocation at the end of the Biden administration that got tied up in the new administration. I just wondered if Tualatin was kind of the manager of that. Mm-hmm. I saw the mayor of Tualatin a few months ago and he said it's in litigation. Do we know any? No, it's just.
I don't have any more updates. It's the Tank Up grant opportunity, and we receive updates from the city of Tualatin when they have it, and the last I heard was that it was in litigation and that they would reach out when they knew more.
Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next update is in building decarbonization, and our kind of North Star here is around one of our climate action plan goals, which is to have net zero carbon emissions from building fuels by 2035. And so in service of doing that, we have been working on outreach and efforts in a couple different buckets. First, with Milwaukie businesses. So we have been supporting the Oregon Department of Energy's Building Performance Standards program, which was created by HB 3409, that requires tier 1 buildings to comply with an energy use intensity target. And so for tier 1, for some tier 1 buildings, compliance with those targets can start as early as 2030. And so ODO, as well as the Energy Trust of Oregon, have been trying to promote some grants and incentive programs to help businesses with the different compliance efforts they'll need to do. So we have been, we've worked to identify the around 65 tier 1 businesses we have in Milwaukie and have been sending out educational information and those grant and incentive programs. We've also been working directly with around 15 businesses that were identified from Community Development Department that are actively undergoing or considering energy efficiency upgrades, and have encouraged them to attend some community engagement workshops, which we'll talk about in just a minute, as well as some staff one-on-ones with them to understand what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, what are some of the lessons learned so that we can better support businesses, commercial and industrial, as they upgrade their facilities.
So those 15 aren't necessarily out of the 65 tier one, or they
Correct.
are?
No.
They are not, okay. And do we know what any of our 65 tier ones are doing, or what kind of roadmap they have, or are they even paying attention?
My experience has been there's a long road to education still ahead of us with those 65. Engagement from those emails has been pretty low, and then in one-on-one conversations, there is still a surprise that this is happening, and that's anecdotal. And so, but there are some that are tracking it and already are working on these energy efficiency efforts for their own internal goals. So a mixed bag, but I would say that there is still a lot of education that's needed.
Thank you. Council President?
Even if you're the first one telling these folks, and that can be challenging and demoralizing at the same time, I really appreciate you leading in just educating people around this and trying to get compliance with this, because this is a really exciting standard. Do you have a sense of how many of the 65 are in compliance right now, or would it likely be that none of them are in compliance right now and we're really going to have to work with them over the next few years?
So I don't have a sense of where folks are at in compliance. There will be different categories based off of use category of facility, and then there will be different energy use intensity targets for those different categories. I don't have a breakdown, but I presume I could get it from Odo to understand the breakdown of that 65 in those different use categories. And then I'm not sure how I would find kind of where we're at in energy use before the first benchmark, or before the first compliance deadline. But I can do some follow-up with Odo to see what information is publicly available. Did that answer your question?
I think it did.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of unknown, and I'm just really impressed that we're, as a city, being so proactive in helping the state enforce this. I think it's really good. It's good customer service, and I'm glad that you're doing it.
And did you say 2030 is the first deadline for this? Okay.
For commercial buildings that are 35,000 square feet or larger. And then there's actually 2028 is the first compliance. I'm so sorry. That's for 200,000 square feet. 90,000 square feet compliance is June 1, 2029. And then 35,000 square feet is 2030.
Okay.
More on building decarb. So for our own city facilities, we've been improving our energy efficiency through our participation in Energy Trust of Oregon's Strategic Energy Management Program. And this has been something that we have participated in for the past couple years now. And recently we received an accolade that Milwaukie made it to the top 4 out of 95 organizations participating in this program for our electrical savings, and top 8 out of that same 95 batch for our natural gas savings. And so this not only helps us save thousands of dollars through efficiency upgrades, but it also helps us qualify for an additional thousands of dollars of incentives we then qualify for. So it's a real kudos to our facilities division and public works for their really detailed work to be able to get these types of energy savings across our facilities. This work also helps us meet our Tier 2 benchmarking requirements. So our city facilities all fall within that Tier 2. So while we don't have to meet specific energy use intensity targets, through Odo's BPS program, we will have to be reporting out where we're at. And this strategic energy management program, we're already accustomed to reporting out in the same format, the same numbers, and so we'll be able to easily transition in compliance with that program. So then to support our Milwaukie low-income residents, we have been supporting outreach for the free in-home energy efficiency upgrades program with Community Energy Project. If y'all remember this is a project that, or a program that CEP braids multiple different funding streams, and then the city helps pay for the free home energy score assessment. And then through that assessment, it outlines critical energy efficiency and weatherization investments that are needed around the home. And then CEP, with those additional dollars, can actually make those investments. They can do up to $18,000 per home and have funding for 20 projects in Milwaukie. So we've had this program for about a year and a half. Unfortunately, we don't have any projects in Milwaukie that have taken it up. We had 2 in the last about 4 months, recently completed in unincorporated Clackamas County, who really great folks who thought they were Milwaukie residents and were excited to see this program and had really great benefits. Folks that got replaced non-functional electric water heaters, did some critical weatherization, moisture management, replaced non-functioning forced electric air furnace. So really incredible things, upgrades into the home that CEP was able to do. And they have been able to prioritize hiring a full-time staff member to support this program in Clackamas County. That's will be a CEP that will be able to really help promote that storytelling and that trust building and word of mouth trust building for this program. They did an audit of multiple of their programs, including this one, to look at how they can have greater use, and that was some of the findings. So with these 2 great efforts being successfully done, I think we have a really great opportunity to show that these are real folks, this is a real program, it will be 100% free, and continue to help that that program take off.
Counselor?
Councilor Kosarbati has his hand raised.
Oh.
And you don't see it on there.
Oh, did you also have, or you're just, oh, sorry, okay. Counselor Kosarbati.
So we're nine years away. With the compliance being scheduled as it is, are we on track to reach that goal? And is there anything that we can or should be doing to help make sure that these businesses are in compliance or are adhering to the compliance schedule?
That is a fantastic question. The first part of your question, I think, or this maybe the second part first of, is there stuff we can do to help with compliance? So compliance is run by ODO, and we can continue supporting that outreach and education piece. I do think we will learn a little bit more in 2028. And can continue revising our strategies based on that. To your question of, is there more we can do? That is a perfect segue to my next slide. So maybe we can circle back to that one.
Can I, before you go on, can I, on the Community Energy Project, so I guess I'm wondering, I know you've done a lot to try, and I remember at one point you were doing door hangers and stuff. So you have done a lot to try to identify households. I just wonder if there's any other, through our energy assistance program, I assume that you've reached out to those people. Are there any other avenues for help, churches or something for helping identify people who might be?
Churches and places of worship, we could definitely look into a lot more. We've done a little bit. We've I think maybe skim the surface there. We did work with the guidance counselors at Milwaukie High School to identify and send the information to any student they knew was without heat during the winter. We did door hangers. We've sent it as insert into our low-income utility billing assistance 2 different times, and have done engagement through the library. I would say is our primary methods.
Yeah, okay. I assume that Glenn and Trista know about this? And
I don't
if they have
think
people
that-
there?
I don't think Trista yet, but Glenn, yes. But that's a good reminder that we have a new person over there.
Yeah. Okay, great. I've been talking with, there's a resident here in Milwaukie, Ben Russo, who works with a different organization than Community Energy Project, but they do that same work in other communities. And so I've been talking with him about, they're starting to work in Sandy and Wilsonville now and stuff. So, yeah, anyway, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So then we've also been working on citywide engagement, focusing on residents and businesses. And this was in response to feedback we got from council in July of 2025, and thinking through really getting feedback on how we reach that climate action plan building decarbonization goal. And when we're thinking about like how do we center community priorities and reaching that goal, what do we really mean by building decarbonization? I think we've really centered in this engagement that when we're talking about this, we're talking about making sure that our buildings where we work and where we live are healthy and safe, that we're breathing clean air, that the temperature is a comfortable and safe temperature to be in, that they're affordable, that we can pay our utility bills for these facilities, and that they're climate resilient, that they're prepared for the climate extremes that we're already facing, like a very hot and smoky day or ice storms and severe storms in the winter. And so really focusing on those impacts of what it means once we achieve that climate action plan goal. And so through that, really understanding what are the community's priorities and how we get there. And so we have worked with, starting from January of this year, we've worked with Coalition of Communities of Color and Green Energy Institute to host 3 community workshops where we had 68 participants. And then we hosted a citywide survey where we had about 130 responses. We, I'll move to the next slide, on kind of where we go from here and next steps. So where we kind of started was July 2025. We had the staff presentation on the regulatory landscape on building decarbonization and some policy opportunities or options. And council's direction was to start the Climate Action Committee, do some community engagement, and then come back in the fall of 2026 with those findings and recommendations. So we have done community engagement. Our next steps with that is in September. The CCC will share those recommendations and policy analysis with staff in the Climate Action Committee. And then the Climate Action Committee will, and staff will analyze those findings and develop recommendations for council. And so wanna pause here before going forward in the presentation to seek council direction on timing and when council would like to hear back from staff in the CAC on those recommendations. And then also if there are considerations, impacts, or parameters you would like to see prioritized in those recommendations.
Well, I guess in terms of timing, I mean, I feel like you need to tell us how much time it will take from the time you get the report to when how much time the CAC needs to digest and come up with recommendations. It's hard for
Mhm.
me to dictate timing. I mean, obviously, the sooner the better. As Counselor Khosrowbadi just pointed out, the sooner the better, but,
And we're happy, I know, I see some other comments, we're happy to set that timeline, we're happy to kind of come back with when we think is doable and put that in the forecaster, and if there are other considerations on timing or timeline, we want to be receptive to council's direction.
okay. Council President?
Yeah, I think timing could have been back in 2022. I'm excited that we are getting to work on this, and as soon as you all have something to bring forward to us, I'm excited for us to be able to act on that. I think that to your second point, there's great examples across the state of what other cities are doing around building decarbonization. And I think looking at those models gives us a really nice platform to build from. And I'd be curious to see what we can get back. And hopefully that makes it so if we're building off someone else's success, we can maybe get something back sooner here in Milwaukee. But I'm really glad about the community engagement that you all have done here. I think that it helps to have a big groundswell community movement to back up these policies. And I'm very excited to see this move forward.
Okay, I believe Counselor Khosrowbadi has his hand up.
Thank you, Katie, for this as well. Yeah, and this is kind of, I would hope that this would be a priority. Like, would be, as the mayor said, sooner than later. Because I think we're already on a tight timeline with our goal. And it sounds like, once again, the state's creating its own way of getting there. And I don't think we're going to hit that goal if we go by their way. So, I would like this to be a priority for the committee, just because of how, it's 9 years. That's not a lot of time.
Thank you. I guess, so, yeah, it doesn't sound like, I don't think any of us feel like we're in a place to dictate the timeline, but soon as possible. I do think one of the pieces that I would like to have a better understanding of when you do come back is, the council president alluded to what other cities are doing. I know about Ashland and Bend and their efforts to discourage new gas installations. I don't know a lot about anything other cities are doing, so if there are other things, it'd be good to learn about those. With the gas piece, how far does that get us? If we do it, how far does that get us, and what else do we need to be doing? I don't think that's going to be all we need to do, I guess. Council President?
Yeah, I was just going to build off what Councilor Khosrowbadi was saying, and kind of what you just alluded to there. I don't think, I would love for the committee to be really clear-eyed about what we need to do to be able to meet our climate goals and feel unconstrained, other than just help us meet those goals that we've set. I don't think that this is what Councilor Khosrowbadi was implying, but I don't think we should constrain ourselves just to the state's goal around the different tiers of buildings. I think we should be willing to look at other building types across all construction and just existing buildings within the city.
Other thoughts on Katie's second question about considerations, impacts, parameters, priorities to, Emma, it looks like
I'm
you
waiting
would
to
like
see if your own geese fly, but if not, I'll prompt you with a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You have an affordability goal.
Yeah.
Do you want affordability to be a parameter through which we look at this question?
Oh,
Let me rephrase that. How would you like us to consider your affordability goal as we look into this question?
well, so what I have been told, I think including by somebody in this room, is that I mean, the data from sort of the Rocky Mountain Institute and these different places is an all-electric home is slightly more expensive to build. Not by, I mean, I think that number, that delta is going down all the time. It's slightly more expensive to build. It's infinitely less expensive to operate over the first 10 to 20 years. So how do you look at affordability? Is it the price for a new home, or is it the operations of that home over the lifetime?
That's why I'm asking you.
I
don't, I mean, I think it would be helpful for us to know as we, obviously we have climate goals through our climate action plan. And we have institutionalized and operationalized our climate value into our work plans, into our division, into this work. But you also have current council goals. And so we are always trying to make sure that we are also being true to those frames as well. And so I think it'd be helpful to know if operational affordability over time is sort of an important parameter, or any parameters that would really help staff kind of frame the recommendations we might bring back to you.
Is Councilor Khosrowbadi wanting to chime in on this? No?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
I would say yes. I would say we would have to apply the quote unquote affordability lens. But the thing is too, we also have to, like, first of all, the questions you pose, Mayor, are interesting. I think this is going to warrant a bigger discussion that we won't have tonight. But in thinking about this, I also think that who are the ones that are going to do the increased cost on the new tenant or homeowner, right? And we've been talking about it for, well, at least, a few years now with these market rate developers. That's really who's going to pass the buck, right? That's really who's going to end up increasing the cost. So again, not to get into that whole thing, but I think this warrants a bigger discussion because that gets into, well, who's developing in our community and why. Mm-hmm. So I would like to look at it through that, but again, it's going to be a longer discussion, and I don't know if we can answer those questions tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we can't wade into the weeds on that, but I will note that I do believe Hillside is being built all electric. So, you can meet, they have pretty tight financing, restrictions, and they're doing it all electric. So, Council President.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of people miss the mark with climate investments and look at that upfront investment and don't consider the ongoing savings that you get. So I think being really clear-eyed about the lifetime of the project. I think also looking at the cost of the externalities that come from this. I think that's what Bend and Ashland have tried to do in their fees. And if we're thinking about affordability, what is the economy-wide savings that we're seeing from any proposal that's brought forward?
All right. I don't know that we helped you much, Katie, but I'm not sure you're going to get much more than that.
I think that was great.
Yeah. Okay.
I think just continue. I think there was some really good pieces that we'll make sure we include in our analysis and kind of how we thought about each of those different affordability pieces as we bring that back. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's tough to really give direction without having a deeper conversation. But yeah, I guess look at what's already been done, see how they applied affordability to it, because I would hope that they took that into consideration. And then, see if there's other ways that we can tie that in. I'll do some research on my end too, but it's hard to give direction without having that deeper discussion on the intersection of the two. So sorry, it couldn't be more detailed.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay.
All right. So next we're talking about our climate resilience and emergency preparedness. And this is a a relatively new body of work in our climate and natural resources team, bringing on our emergency management and resilience coordinator about a year ago or 9 months ago. And we have been able to get started and continue some really, really great work. So last July, Milwaukie became the sponsor of our CERT team, Community Emergency Response Team. And now they're over 60 members strong. And we have done some really amazing work with them, and they're a true powerhouse of community education and awareness raising around climate resilience and preparedness. They do so much outreach across the city. One of the areas we're working on with them most actively is really how to center equity within CERT and within their work. And so we're looking at expanding that awareness raising and preparedness, not just for the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, but for the emergencies we experience every summer, every year, and looking at a lot more of the hazards that we're now experiencing with the effects of climate change. We have also integrated demographic tracking for their membership to understand kind of who CERT is and who they represent. We've integrated targeted outreach benchmarks, ensuring that education is being delivered to our vulnerable communities and populations across Milwaukie. And we've also integrated these pieces into our quarterly reporting efforts with them. We have activated our cooling center a few times this summer so far, and getting ready for this activation, we made a couple updates. We integrated wildfire smoke threat protocols into our cooling center activation. And so what happens when they're overlapping, like today, the AQI was still under 151. And so that was a part of our decision-making as we activated the cooling center and kind of what location and what services that we provide during that. We've also integrated operational support from CERT to help staff the cooling center if and when we don't have all the staffing capacity for just with Milwaukie staff members. I will say this year we have had really great staff engagement. The spots go fast, and it's a testament to how much our staff cares and the resource that it provides the community. We are also working with,
Counselor Stavanger?
I don't have to slide in that fast.
Mm-hmm.
It made me think about the stabilization center.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have had any conversations with the county or the service provider there about either leveraging some of the space that they have in extreme emergency, or if they see an increase in occupants during heat emergencies. So you may not have the answer right now, but just because we've put a lot of time and effort into building that in partnership with the county, I'm curious to see how that might be able to be used as an asset.
That's a good point.
It's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in all the coordination calls, and I don't think we've brought that up, but there's one next week, so I can bring that up then.
And also in our conversations around the cooling center, we've been working with the Clackamas County Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds that help support this work to support facility resilience improvements, which are looking at becoming more smoke resilient, as well as some additional potential studies on battery storage capacity at the library. To help continue making that a resilient facility.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah. We have been busy on our emergency preparedness work. We have been working We participated in Clackamas County's Mount Hood Great Escape exercise, which was a county-wide wildfire preparedness exercise. And had some really great lessons learned from how do we coordinate, where do we get information, and how do we request resources and services if and when the time comes. We worked on updating our water emergency response plan and completing a risk and resilience assessment on our water infrastructure. And we've also been integrating climate adaptations into our stormwater system plan to ensure that our infrastructure is properly accounting for the future climate conditions that exist. One more slide on climate resilience. We have two new efforts happening right now as well. One that we're going to be launching next month. We're working on a project called Mapping Resilience. And so where we are going to be hosting a survey that is really identifying the invisible infrastructure in Milwaukie of trusted places, people, and relationships. It's designed to know where to support the community's well-being and help it be met during, before, and after emergencies. Knowing that when an emergency strikes, we go to who we trust. We go to those trusted places, those relationships, and we want to amplify that strength and resilience that already exists and build off of that with our current planning. And so we've designed a survey. Engage Milwaukie can do so much that where people can drop pins on where they have and go for these spaces. And there's two different types to engage, ways to engage with the survey. And we're really excited to build out what that kind of resilience network already looks like and exists within Milwaukie.
Are you starting from what the CERT, I feel like the CERT has done some of that in years past. Have they kind of given you input for that?
Yeah. So we currently have a GIS intern that is helping us with this work, who is on the CERT leadership team, Tom Spencer. And he is helping us not only create this, but then will also help us pull the data in and create this emergency management GIS map, where the goal is to be able to visualize all of the different components around emergency management to help with planning, but also that community awareness and education. So the map will have demographic data. It will also have our natural hazard mitigation plan data on critical assets and hazard routes. And then we've integrated CERT's routes of responsibilities and beacon box sites. And the routes of responsibility, I think this is what you're referring to, Mayor, was based off of their survey or their outreach work to see where they should walk and how do they get to their beacon box sites within 72 hours of an emergency in order to touch those really critical places and also trusted places. And then we'll also be integrating that data from the Mapping Resilience to be able to see how those all stack and kind of inform future planning efforts from there. I know I'm over time, so I got two more slides. I'll move them quick. We got urban forestry. We have been very busy with our urban forest management plan update. We've started that update in January 2026, and we've been working on community engagement. We've been doing listening sessions, roundtables, and a community survey that just wrapped up a week and a half ago. We've been also developing a prioritization framework that really helps us, that will provide a transparent and data-driven method for how we're prioritizing the updated strategies in the future, or in the updated urban forest management plan, but also then future urban forestry investments, so that we can really show that transparent decision-making. And we're also updating our tree canopy map to reflect some updated data. Our tree board has been working hard on analyzing tree canopy data from LiDAR, also from our tree permit data, and researching planting strategies to meet 40% canopy goal. And drum roll, our new urban forester starts on August 4th, and he's truly fantastic. And I'm so excited to introduce you all to him. And I'm so excited that he starts in a week and a half.
I bet.
So final slide, we have, back in December 2024, so a while ago, in one of our climate updates, Council's direction was to continue putting greater emphasis on supporting community climate action efforts and also engagement and education. And so we have continued to really prioritize that in our work. To date, we have started our Climate Action Committee. We're supporting the establishment of our Milwaukie 350 chapter. We've done engagement around updating our urban forest management plan and healthy, clean, and resilience buildings efforts. We've been doing engagement around ODO's BPS program. We've also hosted a number of events and tabled at many more. We've gotten to be a project advisor for 2 of Rowell Middle School's MESA program projects. And their most recent one was around urban forestry. And still coming up on August 14th, your very own Climate and Natural Resources Division is partnering with ERCO on a climate careers panel that will be hosted in our library. So we're continuing to find ways to engage, educate, and work with the community with our efforts.
What's the date of that panel?
August 14th, 2:30 to 3:30 at the Leading Library Community Room.
I don't know when you sleep. Because in addition to all this, you are also involved in parks discussions. So I feel like you have an awful lot on your plate.
Good job, Katie. Nice segue.
And so the last slide I have is looking forward, knowing that there is a lot, and it continues. The Climate and Natural Resource Division continues to support the Parks and Green Space goal, looking for council direction on where you would like to see staff continue investing in efforts, and then also if there's any areas that you would want us to pace, just to align with council priorities and capacity.
I might put a little finer point on it. Katie's amazing, and Katie has taken on so much. And I do think everything's a priority, always. But I think it would be really helpful to hear from you all of the many amazing plates that Katie continues to keep spinning. I'm not going to ask you tonight what to deprioritize or take off the list, but I would like to kind of hear your articulation of priorities within this remit. I think that just would help us make sure that that really, really big portfolio is appropriately prioritized.
Council President, you want to go first?
Sure. If I were to throw in my 2 cents, some of the things that I think are most valuable for to do, first is take the CAC and really support them in that work wherever they decide to go. I think that community-led vision will be really important. I think I'm worried about our tree canopy goals, and I think we're falling behind that. I think figuring out what a pathway forward looks like is going to be really important. And then I would say, I know there's a lot of transportation work that we've had baked into our TSP and will continue to do, but if there's alignment there, when you overlap with Peter and Jen and all the other folks, that might be something to think about. You've got a lot of really important work. So I appreciate all that you're doing.
I would say, I definitely agree with the points about the supporting the CAC and supporting the tree work. And I do really want to acknowledge you guys. Your team has been very present at public events on the public outreach part. And I think it's been great at Milwaukie Fest and other places. I do feel like there are other people in the community who might step up to do some of that. They could be some tree board members. There's Chris Ortolano, who has decided that he's going to be the Lorax and come out, and he had his own one-man tree booth at at Milwaukie Fest. You know, I feel like that for some of that, there's others in the community that would do it, and it doesn't always have to be the staff. So that may be a place to give some relief. Yeah, yeah, that's the one thing that occurs to me. Counselor Massey.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm really happy to see the Climate Action Committee here tonight. And, you know, it's just kind of puzzling to me. We've had climate action as this goal that goes back, I don't know how many years, and we didn't have a committee until just recently. I was going like, how did that happen? So I'm glad that we've got some horsepower there and everything like that. I like to see that. I will tell you that I just think if you're trying to put priorities on things, I don't think that you can put anything higher than personal safety. So emergency preparedness is at the top of my priority list. And, you know, I think that, I think the priorities that I think I heard tonight about in that area is wildfires. And so, you know, I think that there can be a feeling sometimes that if you live in urbanized areas, then you're not susceptible to a wildfire, which is not true because the fires in Los Angeles were in completely urban areas, you know? And so that's not something that just, is a threat out there in unincorporated Clackamas County. It can be here because we saw it in the fires in Southern California last year. So that's where I say the priorities are for personal safety. Yeah.
Counselor Khosrowshahi?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilor Massey, actually, for pointing that out, because I do think that, you know, that is an important piece. And kind of, I had something lined up to say, and then you brought up a very good point, valid point about the wildfires and preparedness for that, because we got close to having to evacuate in certain areas. So thank you for that. Originally, I was going to say, I think the priorities lie really within our climate action plan, because we have a pretty well laid out climate action. Well, it's going under updates, right? Like we're updating that. Is that correct?
In the future, yes. Actively, no.
Okay. So with the plan that we have now, and that's the thing, because we have certain timelines that we're supposed to be hitting, certain goals that we're supposed to hit by a certain time. So I would think whatever is next up on the, next upcoming goal that we're supposed to hit is where our attention where our priorities would want to be placed, because we're still planning to be, carbon neutral by a certain time, and, I don't know how well we're on track right now with a lot of those goals that are coming up, because again, as Council President Anderson brought up, the tree code, we've gone pretty much quite a bit back and forth on that. And, again, with the state now stepping in once again, could potentially make our tree code obsolete. I would think the priority would need to lie within where that climate action plan is telling us to go. And if I had it in front of me, I'd be able to say more about it. But I really think that's our roadmap. That's at least for the climate side of it. That's why it was put together. So whatever's next up that we're supposed to be hitting on that plan is where I think our priority needs to be. And then from there it goes to what's next on the docket based on that plan, because that's how we ultimately get our climate goal. That's how we ultimately get to what the whole reason we, pretty much institutionalized climate in the first place. And I don't mean that, I hate to use that word, but we basically codified it within the city. So I would think that's where our priority would lie in doing what we need to do to accomplish what's in that plan.
Counselor?
Hey, Katie. I think you do amazing work, and you have some wonderful partners that are hand in hand with you on this, and it makes me really proud to live in the city that we do. I think that something that comes to mind for me more recently is that we have an increasing number of really vulnerable residents that are calling Milwaukie home. So the portion of your presentation around resilience hubs and what resilience looks like from a human perspective and like an intersectional environmental perspective, that really, it really found a place for my heart, in my heart. I think that we have such a great start with the Letting Library, but we're already seeing how that resource is maxed out pretty quickly. And that's in heat emergency or a warming emergency. But if we were to put a natural disaster on top of that, I think it would be stressed beyond its capacity. So it does make me think about our resilient buildings and how those serve as a resource across the community. It also makes me think about, I don't know that level of resilience planning is something that the Climate Action Plan has really focused us on. I think it's something that assumes, we've assumed that it's there. And I don't think we can assume that it's there. I don't think we can assume that there's a level of resilience and connectivity across all layers of our community that in the face of an emergency, or it doesn't even have to be an immediate emergency. It can just be the gradual one that we're experiencing. I think those are areas that we need to strengthen. I really appreciate that you are seeing that and you're leading that work and looking for opportunities to retrofit what we already have. So I want to appreciate that. And I think that my colleagues have already made some really excellent points that probably make no answer to this question. And you leave just more tired and with as many priorities, maybe more, than when you came in the building today.
It's okay, Katie.
So I'm
Peter,
really
Peter
glad
and
we
I
could
got
help.
you. We're chatting. I'm taking notes.
Oh, okay.
These are wonderful ideas. Thank you so very much. And it's an honor to do this job at the city. So thank you guys for the opportunity. And I'm still here for the next thing. So maybe we can bring up.
Invite
Career
up
and
the
Brad.
members of the officers of
While
the
our friends
CAC.
come up, I have to be the Debbie Downer that says, if you want to go past 10, you have to pass a motion or make a motion to extend the meeting.
All right. No one's making a motion?
You don't have to do it right now.
No. Well, we still have other things after these guys too, so yeah, we will definitely need a motion, but thanks you guys for coming. Yeah.
We do. They are getting pulled up right now. All right. Well, we were, like we were just talking about, we were able to start our Climate Action Committee in January. And typically our boards and committees do our annual update to council around March. And we were in our fledgling form then. And so wanted to take this 6-month opportunity to share with you all what we've been up to and where we're hoping to go. And truly honored that our chair and vice chair, Greer and Brad, are serving on this committee and such active participants and here tonight to really walk you all through this all. So are you okay if I drive here or do you want to? Okay, perfect.
And hi, everyone.
So you do.
Katie, counselors. Oh. Can you hear me? Thanks. Thanks for having us. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Greer Ryan, Chair of the Climate Action Committee. Just first want to say thank you for starting this committee. I know maybe it would have been better a handful of years ago, but now is better than later, right? And just all of the praise that you all gave for Katie, I feel like times a million from us, because we would not, I don't know what we'd be talking about at this point if not for Katie's leadership and steering of our conversations. But yeah, as Katie said, we've been meeting about monthly since January, so 6 or 7 months at this point. I'm going to go through kind of what we've done and some of our main goals for the year, and then pass it off to Brad. But as a brand new committee, we really wanted to set a good foundation. So a lot of time has gone towards kind of the basics, adopting some bylaws, electing officers, and agreeing as a group on how we want to work together collaboratively. One of the first things that became clear to me sitting around the table with the other members was just the level of like talent and thoughtfulness, and then pretty amazing experience in the room. So I don't know if any are listening in right now, but just thanks to the fellow committee members, who are all volunteers, by the way, for stepping up. We've also been really intentional about staying action-oriented because of the urgency of this topic, because of our experiences. We're a deliberative body and we take that seriously, but we're equally committed, I would say, to just actually moving things forward. And we think of ourselves as, you know, part of the community. We are just Milwaukeeans, and so the conversations with community members is really critical to getting our recommendations right. Next slide, please. So our first goal, and the one that council's directed us to do for this first year, is develop some building decarbonization policy options. We love that direction, I'll just say, because we're all really excited about it as a focus. Several of us on the committee bring professional experience in this space, and we think that's a great opportunity to like put that experience to work for Milwaukie. We also know the importance of making improvements where people, you know, live and learn and work for their quality of life as well as for the climate. It's a win-win. As far as what we've done so far, we've had presentations and learned about statewide policies that might interact with anything we'd recommend locally. We've gone through a staff memo outlining some suggested policy directions. We're now creating a task force, or we've created one, to dig into building specific suggestions from staff, along with other ideas the committee wants to explore outside of meeting spaces, since we do only meet once a month and we know we need more time to really dig in and research and understand. We're really looking forward to hearing those results and findings from the community outreach and engagement efforts from Green Energy Institute and Coalition of Communities of Color. We think those will help us shape our recommendations to ensure that folks who really need support the most are the ones that are prioritized in this work. And then I'll just speak for myself and say I really appreciate the conversation we've heard tonight from council. I think, as was acknowledged, this will continue to be a big discussion moving forward, but we are hoping to bring actionable policy recommendations to you all this fall. It is definitely a priority for us. And we want to keep moving this work forward to help deliver those clean air, those tangible clean air, health, and affordability benefits to all Milwaukeeans. So that's our primary goal. Our secondary goal, or second goal I should say, is developing our approach to community resilience. So Katie highlighted that as a priority for staff. We've also said we think it's a pretty clear priority for us as a group. We're already seeing heat and wildfire smoke, you know, this year, but it's an annual threat at this point. We're kind of still in the learning phase of that. The last meeting was really focused on that, and the next one will be too, getting up to speed on what the city's done, and we're eager to dig in further. Actually, next meeting will not be. I lied about that, but it was an unintentional lie. Moving on, we recognize that trees are great natural infrastructure for heat relief, for clean air. There's such big intersection there with climate issues. But we don't want to duplicate work that's already underway, so we've designated a couple of Climate Action Committee members to be liaisons to the tree board to try to stay coordinated on that work. And then finally, because there's so many of these goals, safer, cleaner buildings, broader climate resilience efforts do require real investment, and we know that staff is just running around doing as much as possible to make this climate action plan a reality. We've taken it upon ourselves to do a side task force to explore if there are any additional funding streams that we could try to bring forward as potential options for the city to take some of this work on. That's expensive. So yeah, that's not something that we necessarily have answers on yet, but we'll be in touch if we do. Finally, I feel like I've breezed through this a bit, but we've talked a lot about how the through line for our community work is outreach and education. So I'm going to pass it off to Brad, who's our vice chair, to talk about that.
Yeah, happy to. This is our third goal, is just to make sure on the climate issue to have that conversation with our neighbors, to have the kind of two-way street and be that connective tissue, and also kind of use what we know and help people kind of see themselves in the solutions, hear kind of how they approach climate action, what they want to see. And the conversations so far have been really great. This is a photo of a few of us at the Earth Day, where we had about probably a dozen conversations that ranged from like everything from transportation to water protection to buildings. So that was really, it was eye-opening and great. And then at least 3 of the committee members went to at least one of the community listening sessions on building decarbonization. I went to all 3. It was really incredible. We'll get, of course, the official analysis and results from CCC, but just anecdotally, I thought the community was really engaged and pretty knowledgeable about their homes and buildings, and also kind of communicated really well that they know it's going to be challenging to get where we need to get, but it was also really, in the whole room, a necessity to get to a healthier, cleaner homes and buildings for all the reasons that people were making the connection to safety and health and more affordability. So that was really great. And it's just a credit to our community too. They talked about community resilience. They talked about making sure everyone gets to make the transition to cleaner buildings together. I just thought that was a credit to Milwaukeeans to not just be thinking about themselves, but the whole community. So that was great. And then we have plans to do a lot more. We want to keep talking to folks, really make this stuff accessible. We're working on sort of our elevator pitch and how to make it real as far as like clean energy and affordability, transportation and health, all those connections that climate has. So we'll be at the sustainability fair, as well as searching for other opportunities to get out there. And I think at this point, we're happy to take questions.
Well, as I said earlier, I think it was before you guys were here, but I said it to Metro, the farmer's market is the place to reach people. So if you want to do more tabling, I would definitely try and get on a farmer's market Sunday sometime. I mean, the city has its days that it's there. So we could have some, we could definitely have some of the same stuff you guys were using for that at the city booth. But it might be nice to have you guys there to talk about some of that. Yeah, it's great. It's great. You guys have done a lot in 6 months. So, yeah. Council President?
Might need someone to turn off their mic.
Oh.
All of them are off. You had a slide about trying to find other funding and partnership opportunities. I'd be curious what we're looking at there. I know Eugene is considering their own version of like PSEF in Portland. That has given a lot of money towards clean energy initiatives. Are we talking about a funding measure like that? Or are we talking about grants that we can try and pull down or other things that we could be looking at? That's really interesting to me.
Great question. Right now, the scope is pretty broad. I think we're looking at what other cities are doing to try to get some money in, but also, thinking about private partnerships even. Somebody brought up, like, if we're talking, this was an example of a creative private partnership, but trying to figure out the Nike bike situation, if that could be something that Milwaukie could benefit from. That's not a specific thing for us, but as an example of that kind of model. And then grants and other, types of funding. So it's right now it's a wide net of us trying to lean on our research skills, networks, experience, and we haven't had enough time to get anybody a list of like potential opportunities yet, but we've also been learning about what the city's already exploring or looking into, because we don't want to spend a lot of time on something that staff's already dug into. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. It's similar to the building decarb. I think it's nice that you have no parameters and you get to go forth and find some interesting things. You've got a lot of talented people on your board, and so being able to do a lot of legwork that can result in some really cool policy and ideas that all of us up here hadn't been considering, I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think when you guys were selected and the rest of the committee, I mean, I remember doing interviews with Katie and we were like, oh, wow, we got some really good people and, really hope for like being a force multiplier for staff. So it's great that you guys are diving in like that. I did want to mention on the Resilience Hub thing that the Spring Creek Early Learning Center at the corner of Monroe and 224, they've actually got people up on their roof this week working, and I think that is, they got a PGE grant for a Resilience Hub there. So I think that's probably what's going on there this summer, is doing that work, and so that's somebody you might want to tap into and talk to. Yeah. Councilor Khosrowshahi, have you got your hand up? Nope. Okay. Any other questions or comments for the CAC members? Well, thanks so much for all the stuff you're doing, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the fall. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Now we have budget check-in with Emma and Scott. And anybody ready to make a motion? Or
I feel like we can do it no extension.
Okay,
I'm
well,
feeling
let's see. Okay.
And I think the city manager may have more to add, but my words for council on your semi-annual budget check-in is just what I said in an email to you guys a couple weeks ago about where you stand. It's the dawn of a new fiscal year and biennium. So officially, nothing has been posted to any of your accounts in terms of your personal budgets, your budget lines for your council, education and training. Just a word of caution that, it's the start of a new 2-year fiscal year, and you may be sitting in the seats now, and it's conceivable that somebody else might be sitting in the seat at some other time in the future. So caution and be strategic as best you can is all I have to say.
Don't spend all the money.
You use it as you will, but that's the only message I had tonight, and that's an opportunity for council to ask questions. But
Scott's the absolute perfect diplomatic speech, and then I'll say the slightly more sobering speech, which is that I forwarded you all an email that I sent today to city management, effectively asking for a freeze on non-essential spending for the time being. We knew when we adopted our budget back in May, and we were very transparent and honest, that we have a challenging financial forecast and picture, but we were confident that the expenses we were forecasting and the time in the biennium was going to allow for adequate planning for new revenues, and we would build that strategy. That is still all the work to be done. There are things that have occurred between May and now that are enumerated in my email to you that made me feel it was prudent to implement that spending freeze. It's not really a freeze, but it's a hold on non-essential expenditure. So I wanted to provide that as context, A, just so you know how I'm administering the city, but B, I think it's prudent guidance potentially to follow for your own council budgets as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to be transparent about that messaging that went to all staff today, or all managers today.
Okay, thank you. I did want to ask, since we're talking about council budget, because I was thinking at the end of the last fiscal year, I had a little bit left, and I was like, oh, I would have thrown some more at the Wichita Center project, and that prompts me to ask Councilor Khosrowshahi, do we know what happened with the money that was given to the Wichita Center?
I know they did provide us an invoice, but I can find out. I can check in.
They bought a new freezer, they bought whatever it was, yeah.
Well, I know what they were, because we initially talked about the freezer.
Mhm.
But I know that they also had some other needs, so it was kind of like a conglomerate.
Uh-huh, okay.
But I don't know exactly. I know that they did get us an invoice though. So I can check in and find out exactly what.
It'd be nice to know, but, okay. Any questions for anybody on the budget? Okay. All right, Willamette Falls Locks funding.
So this was a conversation that started at the budget hearings. You had the ask, I believe it was for $10,000 on an annual basis to support that. And our notes from those hearings were that you weren't prepared to make a decision to put that in as an expenditure line item at the time prior to budget adoption, but we were going to revisit it. So here we are revisiting it in light of my sober message. And we will follow your direction if you would like more time or more analysis, but financial analysis to inform that decision, we're happy to provide it, but.
I guess I thought we said we wanted to fund it. We just, I thought there was a general support for the idea of funding it. No?
I thought
I would disagree with that.
I thought there was consensus, but we didn't have time to amend the budget. We were gonna amend it in a budget adjustment, was what I had understood. But I think in light of the message that you've just given, this to me is a non-essential expenditure. And I think as a sign of austerity, we can write to the Willamette Falls Locks Authority and tell them that we're holding off for now. But I think that might be an appropriate step.
Okay. I mean, I don't feel strongly either way. I do think there is an economic development benefit to Milwaukie of having those locks open. So I do think it wasn't an unreasonable ask of them to try and involve the cities along the river. Councilor Khosrowshahi.
Yeah, I don't know about necessarily backing out of that. I know it's had that information, but I do see the benefit in something like that. I would think that we would want to probably discuss that now and figure it out. How much was the original ask?
10,000. And I mean, I do think they would love to have it be a year-over-year continuing contribution until the locks are open. So for the next 5 or 6 years. But they're not necessarily asking for that commitment. They're just asking for 10,000 for this budget year.
Because I know we talked about this before, did we already budget for this? Or no, this is not, how does this impact our budget overall?
These were funds, Councilor Khosrowshahi, this was lobbying expenditure that we had and that we identified that we could spend our lobbying dollars on this in lieu of a lobbyist.
Are we planning to spend it on lobbying, or because if we're not going to spend it on lobbying, then we might as well commit it to this?
I think that was the plan when I talked about it in budget committee. I think the only question
remember that. Actually, now that you say that, I do remember that conversation. I had forgotten that.
And that $10,000 was included in the budget that was adopted, so that is still there.
So then it doesn't impact the necessary spending as of when City Manager Sager sent that out, correct?
If you direct us to reassign that money from lobbying to this, you could still argue though that both you get to make the call, but what we're talking about, what the message I have sent to staff is even if it's in your budget, we are holding on non-essential expenditures for the time being. So it's your budget. You get the decision by consensus on how to spend it.
Was there a deadline other than yesterday from the locks? They just like it whenever we can get it?
Yeah, I think they timed their ask around our budget cycle. They were hoping that it would come with the new budget, but yeah, they will happily take the money at whatever point we felt we could do it, I'm sure.
We could bring this back for revisiting in 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, Counselor Massey.
Yeah, I agree with Counselor Anderson on this. This would be great to do, but in light of the non-essential nature of this expenditure, I would not support this at this time. We can always revisit anything, at any time if things get better, but, in light of this non-essential, concern, I think we need to, join in that effort and conserve the funds that are available, because we don't know what we're going to have to do over the next few months.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that?
Do we have a consensus to not give that money?
Uh,
I would like
it sounds
to give that money.
It sounds like there's some view of not giving it for now, but maybe revisiting in a few months, revisiting at the end of the year.
Take a straw poll?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, I don't know if, did Councilor Stavanger, maybe I missed it.
She's thinking, she's.
Able to,
I haven't weighed in yet.
But her mic is on.
The mic is on. I'm just
Please.
trying to decide if I can do it.
And you will
without
need to make a
making an
motion in
amendment.
a few minutes if you
Damn
want to
it.
extend the meeting.
All right, I should make a motion first, huh? I move to extend the meeting by 10 minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the meeting by 10 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, we're extended till 10:10.
And now I will speak for 9 minutes about this. Oh, man. I love you guys. Okay, so I think I'm torn on this. I think that we are in extenuating circumstances. It makes a lot of sense to be very fiscally responsible. Emma, that is never an easy email to send. And I see how hard that was. And I know how hard it is for every single director that got that email today. Having been on the receiving end of some of those emails, it's never fair. That being said, it's also never an opportune time in any budget cycle to, from a financial perspective, to carve out where money needs to historically have been spent. And this is one of those things that I do feel really strongly about investing where historical damage has been done to populations, Native populations and Indigenous populations, especially along the river that we benefit from. So I would like to propose that that we allocate half of the lobbying funding to this effort, and that we revisit the conversation in 4 months to see if we are at a point then where we might be able to allocate the remainder of the funding.
Fund only 10,000, so this was the whole lobbying fund? It was, okay. Council President?
I think back to the spring when I was talking about this. I was talking to Councilor Lewis about her involvement in the Willamette Falls locks. And I know when budget season came up, me and the mayor were both trying to find a spot for these dollars. So I don't take lightly the idea that we're pulling back from giving these dollars, but I do think it's really important that we as a council lead by example. And I think that our city manager has told all of our department heads to pause non-essential spending. And as hard as this is, as much as I want to spend these dollars, I think backing her up tonight and us modeling the behavior that we want to see from department and heads is like the best signal we can send to the city in this time. And I struggle to say that because in part, I think it is, I would love to be a regional partner and support this project more. I think there are ways we can continue to support it without these dollars. But I think that we are going to go into really hard budget times. And I think that this is kind of a small moment and signal about how seriously we're taking this.
All right, do we have did you actually make a motion or were you just offering a suggestion?
I made a proposal. It's
Yeah.
not a motion at this point. Because I want to hear thoughts of my colleagues, and I think I have heard those. So I hear what you say, and I am going to turn it into a motion now. So I move to allocate $5,000 from the lobbying fund to the Willamette Falls Locks Authority for this project, and then revisit this conversation in 4 months.
In terms of the
I
second half, okay. You seconded, Counselor Kosherbody? Okay.
Yes, Mayor.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to dedicate $5,000 from the lobbying, move $5,000 from the lobbying allocation to provide to the Willamette Fox Locks Authority, and also to come back and revisit a potential second half of that fund in the winter, toward the end of the year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no.
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 Okay, we have a 3-2 vote. I think we have a decision. I mean, I do take the point of how hard that message was to send today. But yeah, we've also been asked for this for a couple of years now, and I feel like it is an important regional partnership, so.
Completely understand, and thank you for the conversation. I feel
Yeah.
deeply respected and supported. Thank you very much, and this is great. We'll move forward with our finance team on making that adjustment.
Thank you. All right. Other council reports. You have 5 minutes.
I just want to mention a couple of events. Over at the parking lot at Jackson and Main, behind a certain building that you all know, on the 7th and the 8th of August, there will be an event called Milwaukie. It's our very own music festival. Last year, we had 5 or 6 bands play, and a couple hundred people show up. This year, we are going to close the parking lot. 13 bands will play across 2 days with a bunch of vendors and, hilarity and hopefully no hijinks will ensue. There's also on, sorry.
The first night of Milwaukie is also First Friday.
It is First Friday. Yes. Yeah. So it's gonna be big, and then we'll all be recovering from that on Saturday when we do it again. So fun. Also want to mention that there are businesses as part of the Business of Milwaukie. So these are women-owned and led businesses across the city that are putting a de-stash sale together on August 15th. And so that is a sale where we're going to bring out all of the things that we have in stash. Extras, overstock, lots and lots of craft material. So mark that on your calendars and bring a wagon. So we've got that going on. And then lastly, another event that I wanted to mention is September 5th. This one is in the works, but it's Y2K at Milwaukie Bay. And it's in conjunction with 4 regional car groups. And there will be lots of fine cars to look at. And then you can pick up your New Kids on the Block buttons and hammer pants.
Wow. And that's also in the parking lot behind?
That would be in the parking lot at Jackson and Main behind
Yeah.
the building,
Yeah.
and also the Metro lot. We're working on closing both of those
Oh, okay.
for that. It would be from 2 to 8 p.m.
Okay. And what was the date?
The 5th of September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if any of you, if you're looking for something that's nearer on your calendar, or your dance card is open on Saturday, this Saturday, the Milwaukie Pride celebration is happening, and the after party is over at our place. So starting at 6, there will be drag performers who are choosing teams, dodgeball style, from the audience, and they will then compete in karaoke battles between the 2 teams. So I'm looking at all of you and hoping that you can sing. So those will be multiple genres, multiple songs, and there will be a battle. And the organizers from Milwaukie Pride are helping to put that together. It'll be fun.
Nice.
That's all I had.
I've got a quick one.
Okay.
The PARB met last week, and it was primarily the Emma show, because so many things came up in the June 24th meeting with the NCPRD that was kind of news to the PARB, about the utilities and all that other kind of stuff. So Emma took a deep dive into the whole background of this relationship with NCPRD and the issues revolving around Milwaukie Bay Park, and sort of peel the onion on that, so that they had a level of understanding that us here on the dais has. And I will tell you that it was an unusual response from the PARB because most of them got angry. Yeah, and so I think they felt the full force of the dilemma here and that kind of thing, but they're up to speed. So thanks, Emma, for taking that time to educate the PARB.
I'll just follow up on that to say that there was a reporter from the Oregonian at the Metro meeting today asking questions about the stalemate between us and the county on. So maybe we'll see some Oregonian coverage of that. I also, on the topic of a car show, I don't know the date, and I will try and get that so that we can include it in announcements in August, but I'm pretty sure at some point in August, there is a car show for the Milwaukie Community Center Foundation out at North Clackamas Park. That's a fundraiser for them, and I'll try to get more details on that. Oh, I forgot. Oh, we need 5 more minutes.
By my watch, you have 3 minutes.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Did you want to talk about these letters, Mayor Beatty?
Sure. This is a letter that you guys got this afternoon about the bigger trucks. I brought a letter before.
I move that we extend the meeting by 5 minutes.
Okay. It's been moved to extend the meeting by 5 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the meeting by 5 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're extended for 5 more minutes. This is a letter, this Coalition Against Bigger Trucks, I gather they've reached out to multiple ones of us because they sent this to 3 of us. But I was fine with the letter as they wrote it. There is apparently new activity afoot in Congress in the latest transportation bill in the House. And so they wanted our help reaching out to our 2 senators and Rep. Bynum. So there's this letter in the packet. Anybody have any concerns or objections?
I'm good to sign on.
No concerns.
Counselor Khosrowshahi, you're okay with it?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you. We might not have needed the 5 minutes, but, okay.
since you extended, can I just ask, who will be present at Pride? And would anyone be willing to be at the unveiling? Great, Mayor, thank you. And anyone else is welcome, but I needed one. So I unfortunately will be out of town. I'll be at the beach. It's been planned since February, but Joseph will be there, staff will be there. Excited to see you.
Awesome. Awesome. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, we still have 6 minutes. I'll move to adjourn.
Can I just move to shorten the meeting by 4 minutes? No, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. I thought Counselor